All right, welcome to Roleplay Cafe. Joined with Sam, Chalice and Chains on YouTube, longtime YouTube man and role player. Below is Stochastic Agency, Brian. YouTube channel is Stochastic Agency, and of course below me is the Tasmanian Devil himself, Del, and we are on his YouTube channel, Roleplay Cafe. I am Jason, the presenter, and we are back to the third session in our Dark Age of Man Chronicles. We have Brother Ethelwald. Sam's character is a Christian church official, and we have Brian, who is playing Sylvester. Oh God, I can't believe it. Deuce did it, right? Deuce did it. He is a family. Longtime family resident of the Dredgewater county with his family, and he is a soldier for the Washburns as a scout commander. And of course, Dale plays Vidar Watt, a former Viking raider turned resident Thatcher of Dredgewater at some point. All right, so gentlemen, it's been 2 weeks since the Peen execution. Ethelwald and Vidar escorted 2 young girls to the convent in Howardtown. You spent 2 weeks there, Ethelwald, among the brother Jeremiah and sister Sophia. Vidar spent time in Howardtown, basically banging around the city of Howardtown, learning what he could learn. And Sylvester, far more formal and serious, as he has been commanded by his lord Washburn to investigate and scout the enemy, which you discovered Jerix. Turns out a Viking army on the west banks of Dredge, northwest of Dredgewater, quite a ways, not super far, but far enough. And he has longboats, and he has an army, but not enough to be a real offensive threat, as you've assessed. And, of course, traveling down south to the borders of Von Mort, you have discovered that he has intermingled with some Vikings, maybe Jarrett's men, maybe other Vikings, but it appears as if they're just fortifying maybe their border, not so much an offensive threat. So you have been able to learn that you may have time, but the rumors of what has transpired while you were all the way, that is what puts Dredgewater at a severe weakness, which is Lord Washburn fell into coma. Lady Washburn issued pogroms and decrees to convert pagans or they die. And therefore, basically created a real refugee problem, right? There's people fleeing in all directions that are obviously pagans. You've seen them as you pass on the roads. Sylvester, you've seen them in the woods, hunting, camping. You've run into these guys as you've worked through the Dredgewater County with your ward, the eldest son of Wesweld. He has been a bit impatient over the last few days, as he is very concerned about his father and, of course, what is occurring there with his poor mother and his siblings being left in such a situation. But he has done everything you've told him to do. He has followed your commands, Sylvester. And, of course, Ethelwald, you are on passers as you pass. Lots of refugees, pagans fleeing from Dredgewater on the roads. You've passed them on the old imperial roads. The old Roman roads headed for Howardtown. You have been, as you have all have gotten closer to actual Dredgewater, you now can see the fallout. Bodies burning, piles of bodies burning, heads mounted on pikes. You have seen some. There's a sense here that it is also very empty, right? There's not a whole lot left, or as many people have fled. So it's almost bizarre as you arrive close to. You're not there at the town yet, but as you come into the eyesight of it, it looks lots of smoking areas, lots of It's the river has receded, so no more flood. The Dredge River has receded, and it looks very empty. And there is an army camped just outside in the Dredgewater itself. You can see as you arrive, and I will now hand it over to Vidar as you arrive on the road coming into town. Vidar.
All right, Vidar's leading old Vicky uh, uh, in step. He's bothered Brother Etherwall about riding her. Are you atop of Brother Etherwall? Etherwall? Old Vicky?
So I would be. I think I would be in like maybe a small cart or wagon with Henry in tow. Perhaps even bringing maybe a few little supplies back to Dredgewater, just whatever we could spare. So that's where I would be.
Okay. Well, I'll be walking walking alongside old Vicky since
Sure.
we're kind of just rumbling along. Uh, you've heard during this trip back, uh, and when we first got together, you could tell I've been restless amongst for the last 2 weeks. Uh, I'm confessing to you that I don't know how that have as much patience as you do, especially in the face of these pagans. And I'll look at them ruefully as they pass along uh, along the trail. These refugees, kind of eyeing them, looking for any kind of mark of pagans to see.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be somewhat boisterous at times. At one point in time, um, I try to, accost some of them, and I'll point an accusing finger, and I'll at this moment we say two are coming down there, and I'll point and say, choose these between these two things, my folks. Be baptized or given up to slaughter. And I'll kind of smile with my, half rotted tooth grin at you.
And are you like saying that to these people that we're encountering, or were you saying that?
Along the road. You haven't seen me somewhat that way, but I haven't necessarily gone through it. So some of it seems like a little bit of a hollow thing. But you could tell that during the 2 weeks that we were there, I've become more of taking you as my charge. I have to be your protector. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I feel like God has kind of has put that mantle on me, and now I've looked at you. And I mean, certain things about your patience and sitting there for 2 weeks, and I need to be restless. Hey, you dealt with me expressing that we have a job to do. More so, at a speed that I don't feel necessarily. But I'm quiet enough to listen to you and watch your say. But I'm still threatening toward the others. Their doom is whatever, and I'll say, Brother Aethelwald can bless you with his holy water, and I'll look at you. So I'm kind of sitting on that line, as far as that. But that's what you're witnessing and have been witnessing anytime we can't encounter anything.
Sure. Yeah, and so I think perhaps what we have done in the past, we're doing this little dance, right, where I'm trying not to go real hard and be like, dude, cut it out, you're crazy. But at the same time, obviously trying to prevent any bloodshed. And so I think at this point, the steps are familiar, right? And so I would hop down off of the cart, and I would kind of hold up my hand a little bit. I can't muster up a smile just because of everything that's going on, but I kind of put my hand on Vidar's shoulder, right? And I would say, there's no need for slaughter or violence. I'm sure that these poor refugees they just need some grace and they need some time. Let us see. Perhaps they even need some food. And so I would kind of motion to them, and I would say, hello there, travelers. I mean you I mean you no harm. Please tell me, are you troubled? Do you need any assistance? And before they would answer, I say, I have a little bit of food and I suppose mead or whatever, ale, something. I don't think you drink water, but
No.
oh yeah, whatever.
A little water in your wine, right, to kill the bacteria.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
My ruddy complexion. It's just bitterly cold out, and you can see little cinders of ice in my beard and whatnot. But you can see how blanched. It's almost like I'm batting this back and forth with you, kind of testing the waters, because I can't really understand and grasp the concept of why you're so forgiving or charitable toward those less deserving, and so you can see the conflict in me. Obviously, not to get meta character, but that's what's previously happening over the last 2 weeks. So I've been grappling and wrestling with that aspect.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of an odd thing, but I still feel under some kind of a mandate to protect, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
there were those that will bow to you, Ethelweld, as you approach. They will take anything you're willing to hand out. They'll listen. You can tell from the looks of some of their faces they recognize you. There is a deference to you. They might kneel and try to kiss your ring finger, as they may have heard of you, or they may well know you. They may remember you. Some whisper in passing, not so much direct eye contact as, again, there's much deference here, as they aren't all Christians, clearly. These are pagans. Right. So you get the feeling maybe if they're doing this, it's to avoid being killed by you, or right. You don't get the sense that it's because they're Christians that they're showing you deference. It's almost terror, right? Okay, wait, great, we've run into another, right? And we happen to know Ethelweld comes from Dredgewater, etc., etc. So there might be some guilty by association that you're sensing from these pagans, that maybe you're as dangerous as those that they've run from. You don't get much more than that from them. They will certainly greedily take any apples, cheese, bread, whatever you might be able to provide them. But they aren't forthcoming with intelligence, right? They're not giving you any good information, right?
No, and frankly, I'm not really looking for any. My goal,
but you can tell from their attitude, the fact that there's so many of them moving east,
right, and
from their attitude, that the rumors that you were hearing while in Howardtown, unfortunately, may well be true, right? That something, that the pogroms may well have been a truism, right?
Right.
And Vidar,
absolutely.
They just, Vidar, they're again, reputation-wise, they may or may not know much about Vidar. Obviously, very little, but they don't pay him much mind, other than he might be your weapon of extinction. So they give him a wide berth. He might be your instrument of death.
Yep.
Right.
So, hopefully we'll keep that sword in its sheath.
More fear, less respect is what you're getting.
Exactly.
I lured him with the disdain. At most, whenever he's interacting with them, he kind of casts a downward look. But I yield to what he says.
Well, and so I think one thing that I would have done, apart from bringing any whatever food, Howardtown and the church might be able to spare, right? I also would have asked in that 2 weeks' time for a commission of as many rosaries as possible, right? Just even if they're just crude, whatever, just something to help with the conversion efforts, right? And so with these two particular pagans that might be coming down the road, or presumed pagans, right? I would imagine they would stop. They look rather hungry. Obviously, they look scared. And I think as maybe I'm bringing them, kind of a bruised apple and a little, a little drink of whatever, I would hand these rosaries to them as well. And I would look to them, trying to look them in the eye, whether they will or not, this doesn't matter. But, and I would say to them, take these. They should provide you some measure of protection. And should you ever wish to, fully embrace the Christian Lord's love, well, this will open doors for you. But in the meantime, hopefully this will keep you safe.
They'll take it almost, because they dare not, right? They dare not,
right?
And they'll take it, but more greedily the food, the apples, the drink of wine. They're not real responsive, to the idea. Obviously, Some appear to be, and again, you're passing many of these over the last few days at the crossroads. There were large camps of refugees. There are injured. There are those wailing, those in mourning. And not a lot of men among these refugees. Right. All right, so either they have converted them or they have killed most of them.
Yeah.
But you're conspicuously very few men among these east-moving refugees. You do spy. Vidar would definitely spot this maybe before you because you're actually working. You're actually administering, and Vidar would see the two horsemen coming from the northeast, and they appear to have a flag, and they are riding toward this road to intersect from the woods, from the plains. They are riding to intersect this old Roman road. And Vidar would spot these two horsemen. They're not necessarily coming at you. You're going to probably intersect them at some point here. And they're riding 3/4 time, not full speed like racing to something, but it's not leisurely riding. And they're not yet close enough to make any identifying marks as far as their kit, their equipment. And we'll go to Sylvester. So Sylvester, tell me, as you find last night, Wesweld was restless. Wesweld was up most of the night, nervous. It seems the closer you get to home, the more Wesweld gets nervous. You've noticed this over the last couple of days.
Okay. Currently we're still riding, right?
Yeah, you may you could be walking, riding. You may be you're not yet in Dredgewater, but you would be coming from so you'd be coming from the south where you just spied the border. So now you know what's going on in the northwest. With Jarrett's men, and you've just been along Mort's border, identifying that would have been the last thing you guys did was identify what Mort's doing on the border. So you're coming from the south, there along the river. Well, maybe not right along the river, but
Okay, so we'll kind of be up in front of our little retinue, the scouting party, and everything. A little bit, just not out of sight, but just a little bit at the edge of earshot. And as we're making our way, we start to see these signs along the way back to Dredgewater. I'll be kind of watching Wesweld out of the corner of my eye and say, the worst thing a leader could do at this point is to lay himself under siege, and you've been quite your own captive lately. What is troubling you?
He kind of looks away. If you're on his left, maybe he looks kind of up and away. Swings back around. I am troubled. I am troubled, worry of my mother and my father, but I am most troubled of these rumors we're hearing and these. And he nods at a couple of these refugees that are headed toward Von Mort's land. This greatly troubles me. These are Dredgewater residents. It seems to me they only enforce our enemy. Don't you think, Sylvester?
It depends on if they choose to take a side. And right now, with my lord's pardon, I would say that it is not looking very favorable for the Washburns. I'll kind of and kneel down. We're the road we're on Probably still has a few well-worn, smooth cobblestones in it. And I'll kind of run my hand over the top of one and say, you know, my father has a book that he would read to me from time to time from the old Pax Romanas. You know, the civilization that built this road. Have you ever been under siege? Have you ever seen a siege or have read about a siege?
He stops and he's watching closely what you're showing him, as he has done this entire trip, eager to learn everything he can. He clearly has a great respect for you, right? No, I know not. I have read, though, much of what you. I have read much about such things. My father has talked about such things, but I have never experienced such a thing.
I'll kind of stand up and not, you know, out of deference and respect. I don't look him in the eyes, but I will kind of look, you know, down towards the lower part of his face, and I say, these people you see fleeing, better it be that they are not inside the walls if we are ever under a siege, because if we become a city divided, we cannot stand on two fronts. A fight from within inside the palisade wall and from outside the palisade wall would certainly mean our downfall. There has to be some way to bring these people back together if Dredgewater is to survive come the spring. You've seen the force that is only now mildly arrayed against us. We have what? How many men do you think we have in your charge?
He shakes his head. Well, if my father gathered the fjords, it could be hundreds, but at Dredgewater itself, as you know, not many. His eyes grow wide though as you talk. It actually seems to alleviate some of the furrowed brow, right, that he's had lately. This kind of uptight, and he says, "This is what concerns me. Should we not be fostering relationships with these people, not running them away?"
I'll smile and say, any good leader would be of benefit to his people if he were their friend and leader. But leader first. You have to do what is safest for the kingdom, for our little plot in it. But you must take care of the people. Without the people, where will we be? There are only so many soldiers that we have, and even though they may only wield pitchforks and hoes, they can still kill.
Yes, and they are our people. Make a prestige. Make a roll. Add your prestige score to this, my friend. The check is an 8. You need an 8 or better. D12, 8 or better.
That's going to be a 11.
Oh, nice. So your words seem to directly, your words along with what he's clearly been wrestling with his conscience the last few days, your words seem to empower him, and he begins to stop refugees on the road. He begins to circle refugees up. He begins to, in loud voice, call to these people. If you are Dredgewater, if you are of Washburn's lands, do not fear. Join me. Come to me. And before long, he begins to draw pagans to him, and they circle you. And he begins to 11. You rolled an 11.
Yeah.
You see, in a way, I mean, that's a fat score. It's like this kid is suddenly 4 years older, right? This kid is suddenly, and he begins to give a speech that they have nothing to fear if they follow him back. If they stay true to him and his father, they have nothing more to fear from the lady. He speaks in such a way it almost makes you feel a little both proud but a little worried about a treasonous speech against his own mother. Okay, but you definitely get the feeling that your words have inspired him to stop, to in a way call them back to Dredge, right? And your 11 will of course bolster him, but it will also draw a certain amount of these pagans to your band now as you're headed back toward Dredgewater. So he is amassing a little pagan refugee army with him.
Okay. I mean, the whole time, while he's giving his talk, I give him enough room, but at the same time, any of the other personal guard that may be with us who were under me, along with the dogs. I mean, we are very close in case something happens.
Right.
I want to give him room to do his lordly thing, but we're definitely, right there in case something goes wrong.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I got you. You tend to notice not a whole lot of older, mature men, right? You're seeing young kids, almost orphan. You're beginning to think, gee, many Christmas, there's a lot of kids here. Women, children, but they're all following in behind Wesweld, right? He has clearly inspired them to trust him to go back to Dredgewater. Okay. You might count 20% of the heads are boys. Frightening to guess that the oldest might only be 12, 13. A little disconcerting, right, as far as a potential army. But at least he's bringing people home to Dredge, or he's trying to.
Okay.
All right. Anything else you want to do here, Brian? You're certainly, you've closed ranks around him to protect him, right? That's the gist of what you've done. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not like in a protective cordon or anything like that, but we are in a moment's notice. We could be ready if something happens.
Right.
Once we kind of get underway and everything, I will continue walking on with him, and as we start to kind of come around the bend or crest the hill to see the view of Dredgewater,
Mm-hmm.
I will look down into the riverbed area where it looks as though there is arrayed some forces. Mm-hmm. I see the river has receded. By the pennants on the flags for this massed group, how many people have come, and do any of them look familiar?
So if you're talking about the camp inside of Dredgewater proper,
it's in the proper. Oh,
well,
okay.
It's in the town, right? That is that is clearly Lord Washburn's army. They're your people, right? They're clearly camped there, and you don't know why, but there is a pretty large contingency of Washburn's soldiers and army there, right? Many of the people you probably command from the scouts, barracks, etc., right?
Okay.
So you recognize those flags immediately. That those are your people. They're scattered about the village from here and maybe in the plains, but they're clearly, now you don't know yet what they're doing there, but they're not an enemy flag, so to speak, right?
Well, yeah, I didn't know if how far John had to go, and if he had been back by now, if anybody had already sent. I know it's probably going to take a little while to muster, but depending on what.
But it appears most of them are actually Washburn's people. Matter of fact, you're not seeing a lot of riffraff, right? And it didn't look like this is a fjord, like they've brought the army into the city, right? There's not enough to have been a raising of the fjord. So that would be ultimately what you glean from this, right? As you get closer. However, now you see the bodies burning. You see some people hanging from the trees. You see, hard to say from here, but you'll see a few heads now dotted along the old Empire Road. You'll see on pikes. From here, it's hard to see the palisade walls. You've heard rumor that there are heads mounted on the palisade walls. However, from here, it's hard to make that out yet up on the hill, the palisade. You do see just out northeast of you, past the crossroads coming to Dredge, past Dredgewater Downs. You do see tents off in the distance and a fairly large group, maybe an army out there, and it's probably a quarter of a mile away from Dredgewater. And Vidar, these two riders, you guys kind of coalesce about the same place, and you now can tell, Vidar and Brother Ethelwald, these are Alderman Daedrin's men. This is one of the aldermen from in Dredge. There are 3 aldermen that Lord Washburn.
I wouldn't ride out and meet them. So when he's talking to the pilgrims,
Okay.
I wanted to say, let them go, Father. They, I suspect they go to feed Odin's chariot trade. Lord Eric here tells supplies them, I suspect, to build this great cathedral for our God. And then, as I'm saying this, I'm hitting up on old Vic, and then I'll turn her toward the approaching riders that I've seen, and you'll see me, Brother at the wall, head off and click toward them. Right.
Okay, as you get, you're clearly riding toward them.
Yeah. I want look them over before they approach the front.
Okay. Yeah, as you ride out to meet them, they're coming down. They slow their horses up a little bit. You see now that they are of Alderman Daedrin, so they are Dredgewater, one of the 3 aldermen, and they approach slow in a trot to you, and one of them hails you. Good day, man. Are you here? Are you a refugee escaping this slaughter of the Lady Washburn?
I laughed, heartily. No, we returned to Dredgewater. And the lady, I carry, and I make, sweeping broad motion back. I am in charge of attending the Brother Aethelwald's safe passage back to the lady.
Ah,
what brings you here?
Then we will go no further. You can take the message to the lady. Alderman Daedrin refuses to join Washburn in this crazy act against the pagans, and will stand to protect the pagans if that's what it takes. Take that message to the lady.
Well, I go wide-eyed and kind of look aghast at what he's saying, like, it's inconceivable that he would be doing that. Now, I'll lean in on the horse and give him a hard eye. And Daedrin, he lies flaccid, quivering in his castle as well.
No, one of them pulls his horse around and circles his horse until his horse is facing northeast, and he says, "Look there, fool! The tents, that is Daedrin's army. Daedrin is there. He is but an hour from your palisade."
What reason? For what reason? And then it's like something dawns on me. And are they handing me a missive, paper?
No, he just told you, take this message. Alderman Daedrin will not stand back and watch you slaughter pagans.
My face goes hard over it like that, and I sneer at him. Go back to your master. And then, I'll stand there until they turn tail and leave off.
Okay, and they do quickly. They one circles one more time, spurs his horse, and says, "Make sure your lady understands." And they ride off back toward the tents and the camp.
Yeah, I'll ride back to Brother Ethelwald. It seems that as some pagans go to their doom, and I motion toward the refugees
camp?
that are heading out.
Okay, yeah.
But we need to. It seems that other pagans are amassing on our borders. We need to. I know you're a patient man, but we need to set a light and reach the lady. Haste is of most.
And we can see Lord Daedrin's camp from here?
Yeah, now I mean, now that you kind of there, and
Yeah.
you kind of looking over there, you can see that there's tents and there's a mass of people. But they're about
And
an
it would have
hour.
been-
There'd be an hour from the palisade, right?
Would it be though? Like, would we recognize a coat of arms? Or I should say, I know he knows that that they what's going on. I obviously don't know yet, but
yeah, I mean,
would it be
the minute
that
Vidor tells you?
Christians?
Yeah, you certainly would know when he tells you it's Alderman Daedrin's men. You know that they are aldermans of Washburn, right? There are 3 aldermans that reside on the Dredge County lands. So
sure.
And you know that when war was declared, they would have gone out to tell these aldermen, you need to amass an army and join against this force.
Sure.
But Daedrin appears to be more concerned with what they've done to the pagans, not so concerned about Jarek or Mord. So So that. And you would get that certainly from Vidar's communique, right? Telling you,
And I would look to him and I would say, don't see pagans over there, pointing towards the camp. I see Christians, true Christians.
I look at you quizzically, but I'm already in a mindset that we need to post haste. So I've already started moving old Vicky around, and I'm grabbing the reins of the horse pulling your wagon, and I smack it on the haunches, and to pick it up more to speed as we track on through the trail,
Sure.
And a pall falling over the land, as well as me. All of a sudden, I'm definitely serious.
Well, and I think you'd see a similar pall kind of falling over my face as we get ever closer, and I'm starting to actualize the situation as it is right now, right? And I'm realizing that there is tension, right? And that there is even, there's treason basically going on now. Mm-hmm. And so this situation is extremely fraught. But I would look to Henry and I would say, hey, my boy, I have something that I must ask of you, but it is something I do not want to ask, and there would be no shame if you were to refuse. But how would you feel about not accompanying me back beyond the walls of Dredgewater, but entering that camp and just finding out what the alderman's men state of mind is, and perhaps if there's any opportunity for us to help delay hostilities and perhaps help them understand their Christian duty to support the Lord on high before their Lord in the castle.
He's being just 11, wide-eyed, but will they listen to such a boy?
Well, they may, but if you say that you are from, that you are with me, that you are my ward and my protege, perhaps my name carries some weight now. I don't know.
Okay.
But I do not think that it could hurt to be there. But I do fear for what might happen to you and me if we go behind the walls of Dredgewater. We may never make it back out.
All right, so we're sending Henry to the Daedrin camp to work
to reconnoiter the situation,
okay.
and hopefully
so your repute,
figure that out.
Is 8?
Yes.
So you won't have to make a roll. That's the order is well taken. He feels empowered as your protege, and you have told him that your name itself should carry some weight. He's trusting that, so we're gonna send him without a roll, right? Okay. So you're pretty confident this kid will at least do what you've asked him.
Yes, but perhaps uncharacteristically, before he departs, I kind of rustle in my bag of the few personal belongings that I have, and I pull out this fairly well-made dagger in a nice leather sheath, and I hand it over to him, almost with this look of guilt and fear that shouldn't be there but is, and I say, "Take this, just in case my word doesn't carry the weight that I hope it does."
He kind of reaches out. Let's make a luck check here, and I'll make a decision.
Okay. Well, I got no luck.
That's
so,
okay. You're looking for a 6+.
Well, I did not get it. I got a 2.
Okay. He starts to decline it. I should need nothing. I should need nothing of such a sort. They might find me a spy or a danger with that, but then he takes it from you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
And I would tell him, let us hope that God impresses upon their hearts that you are a man of true intent, and then I kind of motion to the ramparts, which I think we can now see, and the pikes and everything, and I say, but unfortunately, not all Christians are filled with the Holy Spirit. Some do things that they think are right, but they have been deceived by the devil. So let us hope that these men have the true and right vision and the true and right path. And then I would pull him in kind of like for a hug, and just say, may God be with you.
God bless you too, Lord Ethelweld, and I will do all I can for you and the Lord. And he bows, jumps off the wagon as it's moving slowly, and you see him in a brisk pace across the downs, right? Not running, but briskly moving toward the camp. Again, now you look back toward from the wagon, and you can now see a lot of the army of Dredgewater, scattered about the town and in camps. You can see now that they're cleaning up many of the bodies, probably from both the famine that had froze to death and died. They're going around, and of course the evidence of those that have been already slaughtered. They have a how do I say it? They have I don't say a pin, but they have an area where they seem to have massed men in captivity.
Yep.
As you're approaching.
Yeah, and I think as I'm seeing this, I would kind of, I'd be sitting on the wagon at this point, and I would be slumping back, and I think my eyes would be sort of out of focus, and there would definitely be like some tears coming down, kind of sobbing as I perceive maybe like a light rain might even be to kind of highlight the mood here, right? And my vision would go kind of back in time to when I, as a young priest, made it to London for the first time, and seeing the depravity of that city, and seeing how those in power and authority treated those that they looked down upon or that they were afraid of or whatever, right? Remembering the stench of the people at the stocks, right? The criminals that had been recently hanged, and remembering just the gruesome sight of, those that had been drawn and quartered as treasonous criminals or whatever, and thinking about how confusing that time was, remembering the attack on the Normans' attack on my monastery when I was a kid, but then seeing a similar level of brutality against one's own people in London. And I remember kind of that was extremely troubling to me at the time, and then my vision would sort of return back to this scene, and I almost imagine that it would have been like, if this was a movie, right, you would have had it fade from the gates of London now to kind of the gates of Dredgewater.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's make a spirit check. Let's make a quick spirit check against DV10. Add your spirit to this.
Yep. I did hit 10.
Okay. So this spirit check is going to directly determine the fate of these prisoners. Okay, and we'll get to that in a little bit. All right, so back to Sylvester as you're approaching. Rain begins to fall. Thanks to your comrade here, he has started to rain. As you look up, you see Wesweld pull his tunic up tight and his cloak around as the rain begins to fall. This rain may negatively affect certain DV checks, right? As we've now created rain. Thank you, Sam. Right. Pretty cool, but we got rain now, right? So, all right. As you're approaching, you hear a commotion in the ranks, Sylvester, of the following peasantry, the women and the children, and you hear screams and cries behind you among this group, and a wailing. You hear a murmur from many of the peasants behind you.
Turning to about face to kind of see what's going on. Is it? It's not violence, is it?
No, it's like a crazy wailing and screaming. You see some people, some of the kids like kind of scamper away, but you start to see some of the women turn and facing it. Some of the women, and then you see a commotion among a group of women.
Okay, Rolf and Marcus, the dogs, and a few of the scouts. I'll leave them in command with Lord Washburn, or with my Lord Wesweld, and ask for his leave to see what this disturbance is.
Please go. We will continue forward. I am anxious to get to Dredgewater. Which you can see, you're pretty close. And so you're within eye shot clearly of Dredgewater, the palisade. Okay. You can see the wagon, Ethelwold in the distance on the wagon with the horse with Viador. And as you approach this group of women... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Do I see the other encampment, so the one that's a quarter mile away?
Yes, you can see the tents and a mass of people, but it's hard to make out who they are from here.
All right. Before I approach the incident, I say this may be the last time that I have a chance to say anything to you, and if you would allow me, I would say that just be aware that sometimes fear and faith can be at odds with each other when it comes to family. And in these troubling times, and I throw back my hood and look up into the pouring rain.
Yeah, it's coming down a little more, right?
I say that...
Is it pouring now? Because for the record, I did say a light rain.
Well, it is now, yeah.
It is now.
It's pouring. Okay, that makes sense.
You started it.
As I look up into the pouring rain and then look back down at him, I say, even a lone son or the youngest son must sometimes be the strongest in the family. By your leave, my lord, I'll see what is the problem. And then I'll take off. As I'm walking towards the incident, though, I am going to put my hands on Rolf and Marcus's shoulders, and I nod towards the camp, the one that's a quarter mile off, and say, we need to know who those are. So I'm going to place you in charge, Marcus, since you are a little bit more experienced. And I turn to Rolf and I say, this is no time for timidity.
Right, the 14-year-old timid kid.
Yeah. So find out what is there. If you do not see me on the road, then you know where to find me inside the palisade walls. And then I'll approach the disturbance.
Okay, now let's make a prestige check to see how successful these orders are for him. You need a 7.
10.
Okay, so you feel pretty darn confident Marcus is trustworthy and gets it, right? And again, he's off in a trot, right? These guys are soldiers. They don't fool around. He's off in a trot in that direction. As you approach the women, you now hear the screaming and wailing. They kind of break away as you move through the crowd of women, and you see two women on the ground holding another woman, and she is wailing and screaming. They look up at you and say, "She is with child. It is come." And right.
Okay. I will kneel down, push the dogs back, and I will try and help her as best I can, to try and give her maybe a little bit of comfort. I will lean over in much the same way I did with Pain. I will lean over close to her ear and whisper that by all the grace of Diana, we will bring this wild hunt to a close.
Oh, nice. So you're going to get a bonus of the women that are there that understand childbirth and are aiding, but you'll also get a bonus as you've empowered her with invoking her gods, right? Her goddess. So let's get a. This is a DV check of 9, and adding to this your luck. This is because you really don't know what the hell you're dealing with.
At least I have luck,
right? But you do get a +2 bonus.
Okay, so that's going to be a 12.
All right. So you get amazingly, labor does not go long. Maybe it's been the trudging on foot, back and forth, and the fear, and the you're invoking some confidence. The women aiding. She actually, evacuates this child pretty quickly. Right? We're not talking about a 3-hour labor or anything. She pretty much this child is born there pretty darn quick. You're soaked. She is seems to have lived through it. The baby in the hands of these women has lived through it, and the woman the woman who's given birth to this child asks, "Who are you, sir?"
Just make sure you put saint in front of whatever it works in this town, I'm telling you.
Yeah, oh yeah, sure. That's your stick, buddy.
Yeah, I was going to say, among pagans it might not.
I told her that my name is Sylvester Deusdedit, that I am just a soldier, but I have whelped many pups, literally, as I, ruffle the head of one of my dogs.
Right.
And this one appears to be no run of the litter. But I am, and I, again, staying close with them and within the group, looking around. Because at this point, since it wasn't violence or anything like that, I kind of would have waved the rest of the armed guys off, the rest of the scouts to, keep going.
Sure.
And since now that it's myself, the 2 apprentices are away, and it is just us. How many women are there? How many refugees are there?
About 6 women were around her, and there's 2 on the ground helping her. And then you knelt down and talked to her while they helped her birth this child.
Okay. As I kind of stand up, I've got it's still kind of winter, and even though it's wet, I'll grab some snow, kind of wring my hands a little bit as clean as I can get them. Just look them dead in the face and say that I am just like you. Mm-hmm. I am no Christian.
Okay. Oh, so we have gone on record.
Yeah, I say that, standing there before them in Washburn's, I've got the tabard on, and I say, but this must come to an end. And this birth has shown me that we need to change the way this story will end, that we need to give birth to something new.
She tugs on your tunic or cape, whatever you may have there, and she says, I will call, and they, when she finds out the sex of the child, I will name her after you. Thank you. Most men would not would not have tolerated such an event. And then she turns to the women, and they embrace the child and thank you. So you're standing now wet among these women.
I am also going to tell them that, this is not something that is widely known about me nor my family. My father turned to Christendom, but I never did.
Okay.
I would implore you that for my own safety, as I look around at what's been going on, that you speak not a word of this, but at least to those to whom you can trust, who I may in the future see as someone I can call friend, that you may let them know that not all of Washburn's people are so bloodthirsty.
Okay. Yeah, they all these women are listening in the rain to everything you say. Some of them kind of spit, like we've heard great talk from men before. Some of them clearly are relieved to hear you speak this way. But again, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some clearly don't trust the man, right? I mean, man himself, as they have been.
Who's the most defiant among them?
I'm sorry,
who seems to be the most adamant, the most defiant, about what I've said?
An older woman, probably has past childbearing, pretty thin, as if she suffered heavily through the famine, gray, stringy hair, and she didn't kneel down to help the pregnant woman. She was not one of those among those helping the pregnant woman.
Okay, so I approach her.
Okay.
And I'll kneel down in front of her, to one knee.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll unstring my bow from my back, and I show her on the handle, where the grip is, the wreath symbol of Diana.
Okay.
And I say that, I have always been a devout follower and believer in the hunt. And I lay the bow down, and I draw out a dagger, and I draw it across the palm of my hand.
Okay.
And I hand the dagger to her.
Yeah, and she looks at you. This being somewhat a surprise, she kind of, as you draw the dagger, she kind of gasps, like, she doesn't know what you're going to do with it. And then she sees what you do with it, and she reciprocates. And at this, they all kind of circle in closer with this, and
Okay.
they pledge now to be at your back and keep your secrets. As they all ultimately take this, they swear this allegiance, so to speak. And again, at this point, you're pretty certain that you have gained a, I don't say a harem, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean. You've got the allegiance of these 8 pagan women, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You see the kids. Yeah.
I tell them, that by our faith in the lady, the mistress of the hunt, or my life, if I can, I will be there for your aid.
Okay, and she tells you her name. My name is Shayra. And you can spell that any way you want. Shayra. She would be again now among your NPC kind of contacts. The pagan elder woman. All right. Okay, so we'll return now. So let's go back to Brother Ethelweld and Vidar. What are you guys doing now that you're now right? You're all, for the most part, now obviously Sylvester's going to have to catch up to this crew. You see Wesweld, Sylvester, as you trot back down toward the town of Dredgewater. You see Wesweld climbing off his horse. He's talking to the soldiers. He appears to be giving them orders and pointing as Brother Ethelweld and Vidar arrive in the wagon at roughly the same place. You guys are all now within a few feet of each other. You hear Wesweld asking to be debriefed. They're telling him the situation. He walks off. You don't see John, Master at Arms, Sylvester, anywhere. Among the crowd, as you look about, all of you, you don't see Jules, you don't see Dar, you don't see John, the Master at Arms. Ethelweld, one of the young soldiers, comes directly to you and says, Father, we have, and he kind of broadly with his hand waves toward the pagan prisoners, and they're all young men, some old farmers and old men, and he says, all of these men have agreed to convert to Christianity. You must do the blessings. You must convert these men.
Okay. And I would look to him and I would say, well, it sounds like the conversion has already happened. I can certainly baptize them should we wish, but, well, it seems to me you have a priest here who could have done that. What of him?
He holds up.
Father Falcone.
Oh, Father Falcone holds up and lives and resides in the palisade in the Lord's manse up on the hill, and he nods his head back toward the palisade. Gates have been shut for 2 weeks.
Okay.
You see on his face, it's raining, of course, but you see on his tunic, you see on his hands, darkened from dried blood, on his face blood, on his tunic blood. You start looking around at the other soldiers. You see where they have clearly, they wear the evidence of their deeds in the last 2 weeks.
Their slaughter, yeah. And I think what I would do is I would look to him and I would, kind of bless him and I would say, forgive him, Father. He knows not what he does. This young man has been fallen prey to the deceiver. And then I will say, God go with you. Please return to your duties. I will see to these pagans.
And he does.
And I think
he doesn't want any more to do with it. He accepts your blessing, your prayer, and then he turns back to his duties. Wesweld, all of you hear over his voice ringing out as he's making orders, demanding to see John, the Master at Arms. You hear soldiers whispering to Wesweld in deference. I mean, they're not going to speak back to him in the same volume, etc. Wesweld looks surprised. He turns looking for Sylvester. And Wesweld, when he finds you and your dogs, he heads towards you. John is, I can't believe this. John has abandoned his post. They say he and Jules and Dar left with an army, headed toward Jarrett. And Wesweld, you can see this kid's 17, but he belies his age now with this transition. Angry, you see he's beet red, wet, his hair stuck to his face from the rain, and he feels you can tell he's utterly betrayed by this news that John has abandoned his service to Lord Washburn, and therefore to him.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll do a short little thing, because as entering, I would have been like getting the rabbi out of the way, trying to get there as soon as possible, and get the wagon there, and then leaving off from the wagon as Brother Aethelwald is dealing with his soldiery. I would have my eyes was searching for Sylvester or someone, right, to give this information. So about this time is when I'm rapidly approaching and stomping through the area to find Sylvester, and then I'll spill out about the tents and the traitorous Daedrum camp as he sits on our borders,
right,
ready to, you know what I mean? So,
right.
Anyway.
Okay. So Sylvester, you now know who's camped out of town, right? As he's telling you this.
Yeah.
So this is like before with this bit with Westwold.
Yeah, I can see it kind of happening all at once, right? I mean, he's barking at you about the camp as Westwold's storming about the Master at Arms, right?
Yeah, if Westwell's there too, I'm just alerting everyone.
Right.
If I see both of them,
Okay.
that's a double decker bonus. So.
So let's. Oh yeah, right. Great point. So Del, let's make a. Oh God, this would be a. I don't want to say a luck check. Shoot. You don't. Well, it would be prestige, but you don't have any, so don't add. So it's prestige check, but you don't have. You got one?
I don't have a negative one. Just put that.
No, you don't. Right. So let's make a check real quick as you blurt out this information to an angry Weswell, and right.
Oh yeah, and I'm going on vehemently about the traitors bastards, array themselves upon the hill and look upon attack toward them, the pagan sympathizers. And whatnot.
So as Weswell has just gotten very bad news from his army, that John has left. Shit, and you've blurted out this information. Anyway, I was going to say the DV is 8 because of he's getting a lot of bad information. He's getting a lot of bad news at once. So you felt he spins on you and says, "Who are you, man? And what are you speaking?" And he says, "Are you telling me the alderman has turned on us as well?" And at this point, he's this kid at 17, it's like suddenly he's it's clear. He's clear that he's his father's son, or at least he's grown up a lot in this last.
Yeah, can you not see his banners, his tents? He's on our border right now, ready to attack. 2 of his men approached me, saying this.
So Weswell then looks at you, Vidar. Well, then you must stop him. By my order, you go to him and you have a parley with him, and you explain to him we must meet on the fields and discuss this as two landowners would.
Parley, and I'll look at him. He deserves nothing less than.
I'm going to insinuate myself between Westweld and Vidar and say, if you are loyal to the prince, then you would do what he asks. The alderman must answer and have parley while our Lord William lays in sickness and the lady is within the house.
Parley. I'm kind of getting this information anew or fresh or more of like what's going on. And I'm looking confused. I've just been backed off by a whelp and who obviously don't know how to handle things, otherwise he'd go take their business. So I'm taking 2 steps back and I'll listen to you and you'll see me visibly calm down a little bit and kind of do that and then I'll nod. That's the best. And I turn on my heel in the mud and, leave a trail of bleeding bubbles in my steed as I, walk on through and I'll yank the horse's reins and pull him with me. And I start yelling, "Dar! Dar!" because I don't have my mace.
Right,
and
right.
I'm for him as I get through it, right?
Yeah.
So
Wesweld, angry at this, turns to Sylvester and says, "Damn, man, does he not know who his lord is? How dare he address you?" And he's shaking with anger and wet, and but he doesn't pursue Vidar, but he's irritated that he shows deference to you and not him, right?
I hang my head and I say, my lord, that Ignatius from the Pax Romana would say that you must remember that all of these things are not happening to you, they are happening for you. And these petty concerns that some of those that you are going to be leading will eat at you, they will anger you, they will upset you, but you must be the better men than us.
Okay.
It's right to parley. It's right to ask what's going on with the alderman and why he has chosen to go the way he is. I am as shocked as you are about John, as our last conversation was in the Lord's Hall, and our words were spoken in friendship, and we both knew that it would come to cross swords eventually with our enemies. But this is truly a shock for me as well.
I cannot fathom it. He turns about the camp as you speak to him. It calms him down. He catches his breath, and he turns to his men and issues orders. Down with these pikes of pagan heads. I want them removed. And he starts telling them, remove this offense to our people and to our, and so he's these soldiers look a little bit confused. They're covered in the evidence of the things they've been doing, and but they start falling in line and taking down the pikes and pulling down the hanging bodies as he storms off toward Blackleaf Inn. Wesweld, just stomping off in the mud toward Blackleaf Inn. As he's ordered this.
Yeah, perhaps before he gets too far, I obviously, like, we're all kind of in the same area. This would have been a spectacle, obviously, the Lord's Son. So I would have heard that, and I think what I would do is I would kind of approach him and sort of try to subtly cut him off a little bit and be like, "My Lord, may I speak to you quickly?"
Oh, and the minute he sees you, you can see the relief lift as he's very Christian. It's like it's Father. I need desperately the counsel of your wisdom and of our God, our Lord. So he you can just see it like instantly. It's like, hallelujah! I've got a man of God here. I can
yeah,
right.
Yes, and I would say it is clear that the Lord has impressed himself upon your heart, and take heart in that, for your wisdom is what will save not only your people, but all of God's people. But to that point, and I motion towards the pen, really, that houses these Christian men, and I say, I have been told that these men have said that they are ready to be converted. And yet, and for a moment, like I falter and I hesitate because I'm feeling really at odds here, because what I've seen is scenes of humanity and reason from the obvious pagan Sylvester, right? I've seen, but obviously we've seen kidnapping and whatever from those pagans as well. I've seen terrible brutality and lack of vision from the Christian leadership of this town, as well as the spiritual leadership. But then now I'm seeing this, the son is so. I'm having this huge crisis, but basically I say to him, what would you have me do? Would you have me baptize these men now, even if their conversion is a false one, even if their professed words of conversion are just to stay alive? Would you have me do that? Or would you?
He looks over your shoulder at the men. And he calls for the sergeant, and again, loud, kind of irritated. He steps away from you and he says, "Sergeant, are these men? Have they been asked to convert under the sword point?" And the sergeant says, "By decree, they convert or die, your lord." And he says, and he kind of bellows out, "Damn no, that is not how we're going to do this. Make a roll, spirit roll." Ethelwell. DB8.
Can I use my holy symbol, which I imagine I would have
always
gotten out in preparation? Okay.
Always.
So then in that case, I actually do hit an 8.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that effect, your speech upon him, coupled with the evidence of your successful roll, he orders these pagans be released, under no threat and no feed them and arm them as we will need them. It may well be we will need them to save Dredgewater. And the sergeant, of course, you see the look on his face, Ethelweld, Sylvester. You see the look on this, almost like he grimaces, like, "Oh shit!" You know. But ultimately he bows and he barks to his soldiers to release these pagans, and they begin to bring them over and feed them. They are very. You can tell from his actions. They're not readily equipping them with weapons, but they are feeding them and giving them. Yeah. And Westweld isn't watching. I mean, he hasn't noticed that they're not giving him weapons, but he's turned back to you.
Right.
I will not demand these people convert under the sword point. Again, you empowered him through the speech. That's the decision he made ultimately. Mm-hmm. Right.
And I would say you are wise beyond your years, and I fear that your wisdom and your heart, your love for your people, unfortunately puts you in danger here.
Mm-hmm.
Your Lord Father,
have we not lived with these people this way for a long time? It does not change overnight. And the boy clearly wrestling with what must have transpired 2 weeks ago that would have brought this about, right? I mean, he's so young, he doesn't know what the hell could have possibly transpired to have created this madness, right?
Right, and to highlight his words, I say, yes, and yet, look before you, it has changed overnight. Now, you and me, in a conversation, I can tell that you are sincere and that you wish nothing but the best for your people, but you must recognize that they have only experienced tyranny these last 2 weeks, fear and death and subjugation under your father. And
my father? Now watch your words, Ethelweld. We know not what my father has to do with this.
Is it not your father that gives the orders?
My God, that is not what I've heard. He looks about now a little bit, realizing maybe it is his father. He's heard the rumors it was his mother. He's now he's a little bit surprised to think that it could be his father's doing.
Well, that's interesting. So I being the priest from London, right, I would know that typically women do not give orders, and women are not, orders are not followed. Right. And so there's that, and I say, and I mean no disrespect with my words, it is just that your father is the Lord, and whoever is counseling him clearly has steered him astray, but my Lord, you must understand that if you are to impress upon the hearts of these men that they are men of Dredgewater, that they are under your protection, you have to speak with them. You have to address them directly, because if you do not, all that will happen is they will see you as just a younger version of the tyranny of the Washburn name, and you must clear that name. You must show them that if we arm them, that they will use those arms in defense of you and of your family and of this town, and not immediately run to those whom have been persecuted. And then perhaps we can stop the bloodshed that is to come.
I must think on this, Ethelweld. I heed your words. I understand what you were saying, and again, soaking wet. At this point, now you're starting to see he's shivering a little bit as he is 17 and maybe not quite. Although he has expressed himself as a more mature person, and he's taken some of that to heart, that he is his father's son. But now you're seeing that maybe he's weary and he is cold and he's wet. And he says, "By your leave, I will think on this." And he barks orders to the sergeant again. Take well these men, feed them, clothe them, and no more. Put all decrees on hold. And then he heads quickly toward Blackleaf Inn. up onto the steps, unless you guys want to stop him at all, and into Blackleaf Inn there in the town square. Vidar, you as you approach this camp, you see some of the pagans that had followed Sylvester down are with some of Alderman's soldiers. They have come and grabbed these refugees off the highway. They're bringing them into the camp. They appear to be feeding them, and so clearly Alderman.
Some of the men was with Sylvester.
Those peasants that followed you, Sylvester down, and followed Sylvester and Wesweld down. The aldermen, some of those people from the road have been brought over by alderman's soldiers. They're feeding them. So as you approach the alderman's camp, you see that some of those refugees are being taken into their camp and taken care of. These pagans.
Okay, by Sylvester's men.
No, by the alderman's men, but they were with Sylvester when they came to town. It's right. So you're seeing some of these refugees recognize they're safe in the alderman's camp, right?
Okay, but they weren't where I was, right?
He was coming south. You guys were coming from the east. He was coming south, but you saw them with him at some point when Sylvester was up the road. But they were not with you. You've never been with these folks, but you.
I expect that. Yeah. So.
And as you approach, some of the soldiers, stand firm. As you approach, they kind of meet you out away from the camp. Hands up.
I get within a certain distance, and I'll stop on old Vicky. I'll will her to stop, and I'll just sit there, stoic like, and my eyes will roam the whole area. I'm trying to get the count on the number of people that we see. As far as any of the refugees that I see them taking in their own kind, so I wouldn't suspect any different.
Right.
So right. I mean, as far as I know, they were just passing by us because he's still, in my eyes, not that. So I'm not putting those two and two together.
Right.
Okay. So if they were with him, he was for whatever his own reason, but they're up here with their kind now. So I'm just looking at, defiantly.
Right. And as you do, stepping out from the crowd is the guy that was on the horse that told you to go tell the lady. The same man that had told you on the horse, you need to deliver a message for the alderman to the Lady Washburn that we won't tolerate this. He steps out and says, "What are you doing back here? Have you delivered our message to the lady?"
The Arsling sent me to speak to your master. Send Daedrum out. He wants to parley. I have a message for him.
Let's make a prestige check. We're going to give you a +1 because you are speaking on behalf of Wesweld.
Okay, that'd be 3.
Okay. He spits, bites on an apple in the rain, nods to his men, and says, "Send this man back or hang him to the tree. We will not allow you to speak to Lord Daedron."
I don't wish to parley with your lord. The lord of the town does. If Daedrum has any sense about him, he will come to the boy and speak.
Wait. I will talk to the Lord. So he, through the crowd, back into the camp. A few minutes later, he comes out. These men have moved out. They've got their hands on weapons, and they're watching you as you in the rain as your horse kind of titters back and forth. Yep.
Yeah.
He comes back out and he says, "On the morrow, at the height of the sun, we will meet you. We will meet you there." And he points over in the plains, kind of equal
in the rain and whatever that. In the height of the sun, he kind of laughed.
Mm-hmm.
You'll meet the boy in the rain.
Yeah, and he points to the area that's equidistant from Dredgewater in their camp.
Now, am I talking to Daedrum? Is this Daedrum?
No, this is the soldier, but he tells you that my lord will meet the boy there, and he points out the area tomorrow at the height of the sun.
Make sure he does. And I just turn on my heel, or the horse, wheel him around, and then head off. without even any care about watching my back or whatever.
Okay.
This like I'm issuing forth disdain, an aura,
Okay.
bodily, and I just ride off. I did my, my errand, and I'm heading back to town.
Right. Some of these pagans do stop you, Ethelweld, and they ask to be converted. Some of them come voluntarily to you and ask that at some point they would like to convert and be saved, and they don't know what that entails, but they're kind of sheepishly looking at you. Sylvester,
Sure.
you hear in the crowd that north of Dredgewater there is a fairly important person camped north of Dredgewater. They're all abuzz about some fairly important VIP that is camped a couple of miles north of Dredgewater proper. But nobody seems to know much about who it is, okay? And you're just picking that up through conversation with some of the refugees and the pagans and the soldiers here.
Okay.
What is next, gentlemen? Tell me what you are want to do.
I'm riding back into camp just to, approach Sylvester when I find him. I'm not going to go after the boy or whatever. The deed is done, sir. Might you have any other jobs worthy of my attention?
Vidar, you've done what you've been asked, but if you would, when you are in Westweld's presence, it would be better that you defer to him and not to me, out of respect for his family. I'm having a hard time looking at Vidar.
It's hard for me to take forth respect when I have a boy, or he's cut from the same cloth as his father. With you, Sylvester, and I kind of bowed with it, and I take a step back. You stand by your side, and I turn and walk away from you, with your lead.
As he turns, as Vidar turns, I say, "Memento vive." Remember that you must live, not just memento mori, that you must die.
It really doesn't. I pause for a second, but I don't understand.
Yeah. I know.
And it just stops, and then I just plow forward and through the curtain. So you're in a tent or whatever, and out. I'm going to look for some kind of ale or wheat or whatever.
Okay.
Rule slosh that they have here.
Okay. Ethelweld, what are you doing? Or Sylvester, what are you doing? I don't care.
I'll try and hammer, some of the people who've been saying this about this VIP to the north. Just as a point of clarification, is this timeline that we're playing in line with any other characters who may have at one point been active in Dark Age of Man?
Interesting. I'm not certain I understand the question. You mean did you mean like another session I've run locally or something?
Well, yeah, I'm referring specifically to Lord Harlan.
Lord Harlan. Oh, you
mean
your
other
old character?
Yeah. Is this within the same timeline?
Well, Dark Age of Man takes place roughly in the same timeline. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean this. It would all be based on the book. I mean, which is all vaguely going to happen in the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll try and hammer some people, to get any more information. Have you seen did anyone see a pennant? Does anyone know what the livery or heraldry was?
Let's make a luck check and see if somebody has some information for you. The luck check 6. It's pretty simple.
That's a 4.
So basically, you get the feeling that nobody's actually seen this person, but they've heard it, or you get the feeling it's just literally rumor. Nobody that you pulled aside and said, "Excuse me, do you know?" Nobody said, "Oh yeah, I saw it. I saw the tent. I saw the camp." No, I mean, you're beginning to wonder if it's just some highfalutin rumor, right?
Okay. And they said it was a couple of miles?
A couple of miles north of the actual Palisade. Palisade is the furthest north point in Dredgewater proper.
Yeah.
So it's a couple of miles out of town. But it's directly north is what you're getting from these rumors.
I'll just quickly go back to the Blackleaf Inn, ask, any of the men-at-arms that are there if they could relay word to Westwell that I am going to investigate a possible rumor that another party is to our north. As soon as my apprentices arrive, then we will gather horses so that we can get there with all due speed, since they are within a few miles.
Okay.
We should be back within the day.
Okay. So you're taking yourself on horses, and you're
Yeah,
going to take your two soldiers? Well,
yeah,
Marcus is currently at the camp.
Yeah, that's what I say. I'm going to wait
Hillary's
for
at the camp. Yep.
because Marcus and Rolf, their job was simply, go find out who they were and then immediately come back to Dredgewater. So, I don't know, maybe a little time later, they catch up with me because I'd be at the barracks.
Okay.
And then I immediately tell them, okay, here's our next duty. You need to get 3 horses ready to ride, and we're going to ride hard to the north for a few miles to investigate this alleged rumor.
Okay, so within now Marcus hasn't been back yet, so you don't know why Marcus hasn't been back yet, right? So
it's only Rolf.
Rolf is the only one that is readily available. Marcus has not returned yet from the Daedrin camp.
Okay, right. So if that's the case, I'm going to be hammering Rolf. Where is he?
Yep.
He was under orders. What has happened? You were with him, and you are your brother's keeper.
Yeah. He tells you, he went to the camp to do what you asked, to investigate, to parlay, to see. I have not seen him. He has not returned.
Okay, then we will make for that camp first, and then we will ride to the north. Bring the horse and tether it to yours, and we will make all due haste to Daedrin's.
Yeah, which you can see. You can see from Dredgewater. Okay,
we'll make haste to Daedrin's camp.
So Ethelwald, you are. These pagans have lined up. It's about 8 of them that are hoping to be blessed or converted, whatever that looks like for you, or however you go about that.
Yeah. So I would look to them, and I would grab out my bag, and I would grab out a water skin, and I would bless it, and then I would pull out like a little flask of oil, and I would say to them, I would baptize you now with water and with oil and with the blessings of our God. And kind of saying it loud enough that all those there could hear. For God is a loving God who would never wish to see his people, or any people for that matter, suffer. So with that, if you would kneel down, and I will anoint you as a child of God. And I assume these. Yeah,
they do. There's 8 of these men, young men, maybe a couple of older men, but most of them are young. The ones that are survived that are older, they're pretty set in their ways. These are all younger men.
Sure. Yeah. And I would say, but before I do this, I want to ask one more time that you do this of your own free will, and that you do not feel compulsion by the lords of this town or any other forces to partake of this baptism. For once you are baptized in the name of the Lord, there is no going back.
What's your spirit score?
My spirit is 3.
Okay. So with that kind of giving them an option, 3 of them kind of crawl away, slink away, get up, and then head over to eat. And so 3 of them clearly might have been doing this out of fear. 5 of them have stayed to be converted, right? To be baptized.
Fantastic. Yeah. And so what I do is because, I want to do this now. I don't want to waste any more time.
Right.
So I'm not going to do the whole, but,
Right.
In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and I'll, bless you with this water, for water represents life. And this is your new life in Christ.
Okay.
I anoint you with this oil, blah, blah, blah. Right. Now you are a child of God, stand and be recognized by me and the other Christians here, not your own people, obviously.
Right.
But I would say, and then I would hand them each the one of the rosaries that I had, and I would just tell them that since you are new to the faith, don't fear. Just say this, and I would give them the Lord's Prayer, and I would say, when you are in need, ask God for help, and one way or another, you will be provided either with help or with the opportunity to help yourself. And you can always come to me for spiritual guidance, right? And then I would say, now let's make sure that you've eaten, that you drink, that you're well, so that you can go about your day. And then what I would hope to do is to mingle among the crowd of pagans. Not, trying to convert anybody, but just, handing out food and if there's any wounds, asking if I can tend to their wounds and, and kind of slipping it in there that, to take hope that it seems the young Lord Westweld seems to have the right view of what God wishes for his people, and that,
so you're trying to influence these pagans to trust the young Lord.
So my ultimate goal is to I don't want him to arm them and then have them run to the pagan army, and or just immediately turn on the people of this town. So I would say give him time, for even though this may not be in your faith, in our faith, it is shown that through that there have been a lot of suffering in of Christians and of non-Christians alike, and that through that suffering usually will come absolution, and you will find what you need. And you have suffered unjustly, and you have suffered at the hands of the very people that should be helping you and liberating you, and for that, I am sorry. But if you will, if you can find it in your hearts to give us just a little bit of trust and a little bit more time, I believe the young Lord will see things right in the end.
All right.
So just kind of doing that,
Yeah. And so coupled with the conversation and the feeding and the doctoring of wounds, etc., you won't have to make a roll. This would obviously, with your repute score and your efforts, you can see the people are paying attention to this, right? Especially the guards, the Dredgewater soldiers, which are probably fairly confused. The pogroms and what they've been doing versus what young Westweld has ordered them to do. But you won't have to make a check on this, right? I mean, that's plenty powerful enough that you get a pretty good feel that they're not going to be hostile, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Toward not blatantly hostile, not in this situation.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay. Cool. So Vidar, you were going for L, right? Is that correct? Is that what you were doing?
Well, yeah, but in the L by yourself, I don't like drinking alone. About the only friend that I can turn to here that kind of would understand me, at least on a primal basis, would be the man I was calling out for only briefly on the way to meet that cur dog up on the hill.
Well, let's make a luck check on that, actually, right? Because
his blacksmithery.
Okay.
All right. Or his lean-to, whatever.
That has been burned to the ground. You mean his blacksmith? That's been burned to the ground.
I'll probably cover that, and then I'll look around and ask around. I'm stepping around the supposed pagans, which I feel like the place is right with them, like so much sight.
You're afraid it might rub off on you?
I just want to, stay downwind from it, or upwind, rather. Anyway, that's 11 total.
Okay. So while you'd been seen yelling for Dar. I didn't see that, but I'll check it later. Hopefully, it's not important, like a bathroom break or something. Here we go. Let me double check.
Just trash talking Vidar in the chat. No big deal.
If we need a bathroom break, speak up, gentlemen. If anybody needs a break, no, okay. So Vidar, somebody psst you over and waves you over, tries to get your attention, and it is the problem is here for you, Vidar, is this person tries to get your attention out away from the hubbub of feeding these pagans. Is from first glance, this appears to be one of the pagans they had in captivity.
He's on my peripheral. If I see him try to get my attention, I'm already irritated by the whole situation. I've been sitting on my haunches for 2 weeks. I come back and have to deal with Sylvester, having to deal with what he has to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
This pompous little fop of a lord, and we can't get down to business. So I'm like that, and this is more of an irritant to me that this person's doing that. So, I stop and then I stare after calling for Dar, and I stop and stare at him and just give him a, go to hell. What are you looking at? What is this individual doing?
Were you not calling for Dar?
Well, yes, but you're not Dar.
No, but I might know where Dar's at.
The gut boy. And I start lumbering.
Yeah. He kind of looks around to make sure nobody's really close and watching. He comes up, sidles up to you, and he says, yes, I might know where Dar is, but it will cost you.
You're looking for greased palm. How about we settle with your life?
He backs away. Well, it's not that important. Let's make a.
I want to reach out and grab his shoulder before he backs away too much.
Right.
To grab him, you can keep it as long as.
Make a body check.
Okay.
Versus 6.
Oh, nat 12 plus 2. 14.
Okay, so he, clearly he's intimidated. Listen, I mean no harm. I will gladly tell you. Dar.
You need a worm on a hook. Okay.
Dar has joined Jules, and the Master at Arms.
Jules.
They are out. They are out at a family estate. I believe it's the Dusteret family estate. They are building a pagan Dusteret. Yes, your friend there. He points out Sylvester as he's talking to them.
I kind of take a step back and I release my vice-like grip, somewhat on his shoulder. Yeah, I'm looking somewhat confused, and I have to look over back in the direction where Sylvester is. So, he's at his estate. And you're certain about this. And I'll reclasp his shoulder with my vice-like grip and squeeze a little bit to look, and look into his eyes. He's telling me to. How do you know such thing?
Yep. It is. Yeah, body attribute is definitely in the game. Yep. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
No sweat.
Did not know that.
Yeah. So body is for our physical checks and combat. It directly relates to combat, the body score. Okay.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so
great. I want to look. I'm just looking at him to see if he's telling me the truth.
Yeah. If you want to make a mind check to see if you can trust him, is that it?
Yeah. All right. That's a 6. You got 0 on mine.
You got a what?
A 0 on mine, but I rolled a 6.
Yeah. You're pretty certain. You spooked him pretty good when you grabbed his shoulder. He was intimidated. He didn't have time to lie to you, right? So you discerned from his response that when he says that Jules, Dar, and John, the Master at Arms, when he tells you they're at the Dustedit family estate, you're pretty certain, and with the pagan army that they have that they are amassing.
Okay, so this boy is telling me that they're up there with a pagan army.
That they are attempting to. They are attempting to. Last he knew, they were attempting to get a pagan army together.
And they're at Dredgewater.
Yeah, Dredgewater. I keep saying it wrong. Dredgewater's family estate. Yeah.
Okay. My eyes are wild right now. I'm trying to understand what's going on in this. I'm looking at this kid. I'm squeezing him. He's okay. Stepping through this, so I let him go, almost like a shove back, and I turn on my heel and start walking back toward Sylvester, where he was last day.
Yeah, Sylvester is with his Rolf as they're starting to mount their horses to leave, of course. You see him getting on his horses with Rolf.
Okay, if I can get there before he...
Oh, sure, yeah. But he would be about ready to depart, right? Depart.
I put his horse, Sylvester, I have urgent news. Someone troubling. And, I kind of look both ways and look at him. It seems that I saw one of the men, one of the boys of the side, said that Dar and Jules were amassing some army near your estate.
I kind of smile. Estate. They call my family's home the small house an estate.
Well, certainly. But aren't you a man? And, I trail off somewhat, not knowing. Obviously, I think you were a little bit more.
You look confused, Vidar.
What should we do to stop this? The Lord Washburn isn't going to do it. If they're on the ridge and they're by your estate, I can't believe that Dar is with them. And Jules, trader, is back.
Both the blacksmith and the innkeeper are both there. Who else is there?
What the boy said. I can recall the various pagans. I suppose the same ilk that are on the hill, yet they're in both directions. Do you not fear that your place could be taken?
If there are that many men there already, then the house has surely been taken already.
That's what I do.
I look at Rolf.
I think I'm stopping you from heading that way.
Nothing is stopping me right now. I look at Rolf and I say, we have yet another stop to make before we go to Daedrin's camp to find Marcus.
I will saddle up on over. I turn around and then get the horse. Now, it is a good thing I stopped you to go unawares, so now we can plan on what to do. But
I will. My plan is to go there and to speak with my father.
Your father, if he's still alive.
If he's still alive, and I say you meet us on the way as you get to your horse, and we begin. Rolf and myself, we begin. Since we're still kind of inside the boundaries of Dredgewater, we don't run, pell-mell, but we start, at a good canter in that direction.
Okay.
I'll get on the horse and then try to follow in tow.
You're going to your family's home first, correct?
Apparently so, yeah, because
Okay.
this is my estate.
Right. Now, what
My
about you,
family's
Ethelweld? Before we trot off toward the family, what are you doing?
I think eventually I would.
I mean, you'll see them talking and mounting horses, and right.
Yeah.
Do I see Brother Ethelwald?
Oh yeah, I mean, he would be here mingling among the pagans, talking to them, treating their wounds.
I'm like a damn celebrity, bro. That'd be like if like Justin Bieber showed up all of a sudden.
I say,
Except-
I say, Brother Ethelwald, I know we have not talked much, but I may be in need of the service of a man of God. If you could ride the third horse and come to my family's estate. The house got bigger all of a sudden. I believe my father may be in trouble or need counsel.
And yeah, I would look, completely soaking wet, bedraggled, right?
Scar,
just like
a healing scar from Vider's
yeah, healing
attack,
scar,
right?
yeah. And I would look to Sylvester, and then and I imagine I would see this genuine need on his face, and I think I would probably see maybe that berserk kind of fire in Vidar's face. And I'm hesitant because I'm a little bit nervous to leave the city or the town because I'm not sure what those in charge are gonna do. But I think about it and I'm like, a man is asking me for help. How can I refuse that help? And so I would say, sure, I will help your father. What type of counsel do you expect he needs from a man such as myself?
I know that he is a Christian, or has professed to be, and there may be trouble. And I would find it comforting to know that a man of calm and cool nature would be along with us.
And I'm like, sure. If you are in need, then hopefully God will speak through me. If necessary, we can quell any fires that may be burning that lead to violence. Sure. Lead the way.
Okay. All right, make for the Deus Dedit estate.
Okay, now you tell us how long does it take to get there riding? Because you know where the estate's at.
It's like 20 minutes outside of the proper,
right.
It's. I mean, when you say estate,
well, I don't. The pagan boy that told him said estate, right?
Like estate, huh? As we're riding up, I say, behold, the Deus Dedit estate. It's like a 20 by 10 stone thatched roof,
right?
Dog pens.
Yes.
It's
except you
behold, it is 3 times as large.
You can't see it for the makeshift lean-tos and tents that are around it. You make out as you're riding up. You make out John, Master at Arms. You make out Dar, the 6'8" blacksmith. You make out Jules, who's cooking over a pot in the middle. And you make out they're with a rabble of about 8 pagans and a couple of the Alderman Daedrin's soldiers that you recognize in their green and gold kit are lingering about the camp, and they all, as you ride up, Jules looks up, smiles, begins to come out toward you. Dar, stands and drops his tools and walks out toward you, hands in the air. They are greeting you with smiles, not with hostility, right? John, the Master at Arms, stands, right, watches on.
I perfunctorily shake their hands, and I'm making a beeline straight for John.
Yeah, John stands, starts towards you to meet you. You notice he's not wearing his kit. He's not wearing his uniform. He's not wearing the same, tunic you're wearing, the Lord.
Yeah.
He's not wearing Alderman Daedrin's kit, but he's shed his kit, and he smiles, at you as you approach.
He smiles, but I'm sure he could also see a little bit of some upset on my face.
Okay.
As I'm walking up, and he can kind of see me getting closer and closer to him, he could probably tell that I'm not exactly very happy with this situation.
Right. Both hands go up. He's kind of backpedals. Sigh.
So what have you done?
Sylvester, calm.
What have you involved my family with? Why did you come to my father's home?
It was the only... Jules said he had refuge here before he was sentenced and whipped. And Jules said he thought of a place we could go. He points out and he says, we all believed your family to be neutral, and we've come here to escape the slaughter of the pagans. And I can't stand to watch my Dredgewater neighbors be murdered. I couldn't do it, Sylvester. Waging war against the Vikings is one thing. Waging war against Mort is one. But to watch what they are doing to our neighbor, I could not partake. And Jules, of course, and Dar all circle in with you now. Again, they're all pagans. And they're basically acknowledging. Jules says, "I'm sorry. I this was the only place I knew we could go."
Okay, I'm kind of like I'll look at Vidar.
If I'm there, which
you are, all of you are. You've ridden up.
Yeah, I remember you. Yeah,
it's just Sylvester met John in the front yard, so to speak.
And I'm trying to take this down. I'm sliding off old Vicky. Okay, I've been staring down Dar and what's going on and looking at everything. I slide off and I'm stomping forward to. I'm not going to say any damn thing. Like Jules or whoever's closest to me, Jules or Dar or whatever, I'm gonna lay their ass out. I don't have a weapon, but I do have.
Let's make a luck check to see if that's Dar or the tiny little tavern cook.
Yeah, I'm pissed off at Dar too because he's supposed to make my weapon. But
you don't know that he has it.
Well, yeah, I know, but he's lining me stuff with that. He's full of tomfoolery.
Listen, he is lining up targets for punching.
Yeah,
like he doesn't need a reason.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe throwing a kick once. I
mean, literally. I'm not doing this just for the fair of it, but I mean, it's
right. Right. What did you get?
I rolled 2 with 2. That's 4. Okay.
Okay. Then, unfortunately, that happens to be Dar. Right. And Dar, unfortunately, Dar, being an ex-Viking warrior, sees that from the corner of his eye, and you miss, stumbling across in front, and Dar kind of swings out. A big man, 6'8", and he looks and he says, "Calm yourself, Vidar.
Hold still, you bastard."
Well, and at this point, I would try to get between Vidar and Dar.
Okay.
And I would turn to Vidar, hoping that he's not going to bonk me again. And kind of realizing now his mentality, right? I would say I wouldn't bother with anything about God or religion, but I would say, Vidar, that is enough. This is Sylvester's home. You cannot comport yourself like this in your friend's home.
Okay, I'm trying to step around you when you say this.
Yeah,
what is Sylvester doing? And you'll see me crack in that moment. What is Sylvester doing about this? And I turn around and look. Yeah. Pearson.
So John's, kind of trying to, they're explaining all this stuff. And I give John, one of those really hard, as if he was one of my apprentices, I stick my finger right in the middle of his chest and I said, you know who needs to hear this now? Who needs to hear this from you? The prince. Westweld is back at Dredgewater now, trying to sort things out. The last he heard, he believes you have betrayed him. You need to hear what he is saying, and he needs to hear from you that you can't tolerate this. He is on his own. I am not the sergeant at the man of arms. I am not the one who is in command of the troops. You have left men behind, leaderless.
Make a prestige check here. You're going to need 7.
That's a 9.
Okay. You see him actually, his shoulders slump a little bit. Sylvester, you know I am not proud to have turned on our Lord.
I slap him.
You slap.
Just smack him on the face and say,
Right.
"Come to your senses."
Yeah, he kind of looks down and then looks up and pulls his shoulders back. I will prostrate myself before Westweld. Hopefully he shall forgive me.
I think if you, Brother Aethelwald, this man needs your help more than me. You heard what Westwald said in the square about the pagans. You've heard what his intentions are. Maybe you could, if there is unrest between him and his mother and John, maybe you can help him get back into Westwald's good graces.
Now you need to make a body check with your back to Dar real quick, Brother Ethelweld. And his DV is 9.
Wow. Well, I straight up rolled a 10, which is great because I have a body of 0. So
Okay, so you feel Dar's big hand grab the back of your robes, and he kind of nicely tries to push you out of the way to get to Vidar, right? As if these two are still. I don't need you, priest, in my way,
Yeah.
and he's kind of pushing you, but he hasn't physically moved you. He couldn't. He was trying to be gentle, and in such a way he didn't quite move you, right? But he's reaching past you for Vidar, right? I think fisticuffs is still unresolved, right?
Yep, and I would
and you
say,
hear Sylvester, of course, yelling at you, "Hey, talk to this guy."
Yeah, get your hands off the priest.
You're muted. You're muted, Brian.
I know because sorry, I was coughing, so I didn't want to subject you guys to that. But if he's putting his hands on me, I would, kind of in all of this chaos, right? I would turn around to look up at him, right, straight in the face or whatever, and I would just put my hands out and I would be like, "There's no need for violence. You're." What would I say? Your righteous anger is better directed at someone other than Vidar and whatever. And I understand he may have impugned your honor, but right now we have more important things. Right now we need to resolve this so that we can protect the men and women and children of Dredgewater.
Okay,
is that what you wish to do?
So you need to make a prestige check against his DV, which is 9.
13.
Okay. Yeah. He's when you turn to face him, he lets go. He hears what you're saying, but he keeps his eyes on Vidar. He brings his hands down, and he kind of nods. He doesn't look at you. He's nodding over your head and looking at Vidar, kind of like, "Don't come at me, Vidar." Right?
Yeah.
But you've reined in his hostility.
All right.
But he's prepared to kick Vidar's ass if he keeps it up.
Yeah, should he need to.
Right.
Well, and I would look to Vidar and be like, no, just it's like I'm watching. God's watching you. But throw a little of the Catholic guilt in there for fun. But and then I would look to Vidar and I would say, stoke those embers, Vidar. We have it. Sylvester has a plan. He has this under control. Let me speak to this man and let's see if we can resolve all of this peacefully.
So John turns to you, and Sylvester, you hear your name called out from this camp in this group of this ragtag group of about 10 total people, and you see coming through the camp Marcus, and he tells you that when I heard at the Daedran camp that there were people here. I thought I should come and make sure things were okay. So he's breathing heavily and sweating, wet. You don't know how long he's been running, maybe 40 minutes or so to get here. I am grateful to see you here, my lord. And he's huffing and puffing, right?
I give him a little bit of a cuff under the chin and say, I am no lord. I am a soldier and a vassal just as you.
Yes, Sylvester. But is everything okay? Is your family okay? As he's trying to assess the situation, you're talking to these people. He sees Vidar, and
all appears to be in better care than what I thought it might be. And I look to Rolf on the horse, and I say, "Go ahead and come on down from there for now."
Mm-hmm.
And then I look over at Vidar and say, "We should have a drink." And I look at the rest of them, and I invite Marcus and Rolf to come, and I invite Vidar into my house, or into my father's house, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I say, I need to, at least while I'm here, check in with my father.
Okay.
As we're kind of making our way off from that, I turn to Brother Ithwald, as I'm opening the door and letting them in, and say, if you can, to quell the storm between the mother and the son, it would do God's work to bring this together.
Well, and I think I would look beyond just haggard at this point, right? A little bit confused, and I'm like, what does that have to do with this man John and what you've asked me here to do? I wish nothing
John,
more than to do that, but how can I?
Well, because of what his parents have done, it has driven John away. John is going to be, if things come to a head, more valuable than me commanding any soldiers that could man the wall. Would you rather have John against us or with us? If it comes,
I would. This is interesting, right? Because
now is John hearing this?
Yeah, John's right there.
Yeah. John,
we're all
John
standing right here in the yard.
John pipes up. I am not against you or your family. But I won't stand by and watch them murder our people.
Just let you know, he's been tense this whole time.
Yeah,
it's like if he had a weapon, you see him white knuckling it, and his eyes just erratic. But he feels like he's dropped into a den of lions.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Vidar's like doesn't take his eyes off you. I mean, not Vidar, Dar. He's watching you the whole time. Doesn't take his eyes off you.
I'm reluctant whenever Sylvester said that. He calls back to the first time he said we need to meet for a drink, and we never had yet. So at that point, I softened a little bit to say, well, maybe, and from what Ethelwald told me about Vidar, having Sylvester having a plan, maybe that's a cue that he's going to let me in on it.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yeah.
My eyes are kind of torn away from Dar for a little bit, and I'll go back and forth between Ethelwald and Dar, and I take a step back. I'm still tense a little bit, and step back and towards Sylvester and towards the door.
Okay. Vidar doesn't join you inside. He goes back to his work, his work at the anvil, right? Okay. So anyway, John is just when he hears you say this, Sylvester, he pipes up and says, "I am not against you. That's not my intention."
But that is the belief that Weswild has, that you have turned traitor, turned coat.
And well,
do you think you could?
Well, indeed, I have. Do you believe the young whelp will? The young lord will accept my allegiance after I have turned on his family?
So does he misstep when he says that?
Yes.
I step up to him and I say, if it comes down to it, John, you will have to choose a side.
Yeah, John.
And I would jump in at that point. And I would say this is...
Tell him what you saw and what you saw Westwell do with the pagans in the pen in the city of Dredgewater. Convince him. Apparently he needs convincing, and I kind of wave my hand over my shoulders. I make my way back to the door, that the son is different than the father. And then I step inside and slam it shut.
Wow. Okay. So being a little taken aback that Sylvester presumes to order a priest to do anything is a bit shocking. But because I have taken an oath of humility, I will remain humble. Although I will have to ask for forgiveness from the Lord later for the thoughts in my head. However, I will look to John and I will say, well, it is good to have men of passion when they are on your side, and it is quite dangerous when they oppose you. I have seen that same passion in the young lord. And
this is what worries me. How do I know he will not strike me dead there or commit me to execution for my deserting my office?
Mm-hmm. And I would say, you don't. Would you? But because he's presumably a Christian, correct?
John is, but
John is, yeah.
But but not one who wants to murder in the name of the.
No, right. That's what I'm saying. It's like, well, when we transgress against our Father, we ask Him humbly for forgiveness. But we know from the Holy Book that He will give us forgiveness. You cannot know if your Lord will do the same, but I can tell you this. He does not wish for bloodshed. He wishes for the same outcome that you do. And
I have witnessed the work of our Lord, and it has been a gruesome 2 weeks and many, many hundreds of dead. You have not been here. You have not been here to see the work of my soldiers.
From my understanding, your Lord is no longer giving commands. Is that correct?
I mean, the good Lord. How can He allow this to happen? How can He send these messages through Father Falcone and Lord Washburn to commit such acts upon these innocent people?
You think this is the Lord's work? Well, let me ask you this. You know the devil works to infect the hearts of those, especially those that proclaim to be sons and daughters of Christ, but the most insidious thing that he does is to not turn their hearts against God, but to simply prevent them from standing up and doing the right thing. When they see that God's word and God's love is being thwarted, especially by the very same people that proclaim that they wish God's forgiveness. Is that not true that, yes, these soldiers committed these horrible atrocities and because your Lord told them to, and yet
told me to?
Yes, and you did not carry out those orders, and that was the right thing. And you saw others also refuse to carry out his orders, but was that enough? For as you ran away from this responsibility, those men died. Could you not have done more?
Indeed, that's why we were here, trying to amass allies in Alderman Dadrin and etc. to put an end to this. Can you,
yes.
Father, speak well for me? Can you guarantee, in the face of Wesweld and our Lord or Lady, can you speak well for me?
I can speak well for you, but I need something from you in return. That is your honest word that your commitment to preserving the lives of all of the people of Dredgewater is more important than any order that your Lord would give, your Lord Dredgewater would give, and that if it comes to it, that you will not commit atrocities because the word of man, no matter who that man might be, but that you will show the courage to stand up and fight for what is right.
Indeed. What shall I do to prove it to you?
You need not do anything to prove it to me. If you've made that oath here in the sight of God, then that is enough for me, but I do hope and I pray to God that you will never have to see that oath tested. Now, I think I did hear mention of a drink. Perhaps we ought to go in. I could certainly get out of the rain. Maybe we shall drink, right. Maybe have as much merriment as we can, and then in the morning we will return, and hopefully we can set this nasty business to rest. Mm. What do you say?
If Sylvester will have me in his home, I will join you.
And I would say, I suspect that if you are a man of integrity, as I suspect you are, and as I suspect that Sylvester thinks you are, then he will gladly welcome you into his home, knowing that you are attempting to do the right thing with our young lord.
Okay. So he'll follow you in, Ethelwald, sheepishly coming in to Sylvester's home. Sylvester, he will approach you.
So when they come in, it's like a typical Dark Ages home, right? It's all one room.
Yeah, right.
And late.
Go ahead.
I was now I would have. I was on the fence about whether to come in, but I would have followed Sylvester in because Ethelwald was the one who prompted me that Sylvester had a plan. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like I said, I said that. So I would have entered when Sylvester did, thinking it was to talk to me.
Okay.
So we could have a little bit of a pre-talk before they come in.
Right.
No.
Right.
Just to disarm me, probably.
Right. Yeah. Let's assume Sylvester and Vidar have had to have a man-to-man talk, so to speak.
Okay. Well, we can we'll do a little preamble here. So I introduce Vidar to my father. I say, "This is Maximus, my father. He's a much older man, kind of broad in chest, very same kind of dark, sandy, curly hair as I have. I make sure that he's well, and I say we will have company, I am sure, very soon. So if you would, Vidar, help me prepare the table." And I ask, make small chat with my father as I'm helping. We're all getting cups out and setting out the table with a little bit of, dried sausage and cheese. And I say, when they come in, you and I will speak. But for now, we just need to clear our heads so that when we do talk, that we can talk as...
Vidar's plenty of love, but you could tell, it was just bubbling out of his lips what he was going to say, and his eyes are going everywhere. Like, how could you be in bed with, what is going on here? So, but he kippers down a little bit when he sees your father and does a little curt nod and kind of just follows in suit.
Right now,
But there's a nervous energy about it.
Did you say your father was a Christian?
Yeah.
Right. So you probably would have seen Vidar, some iconography, maybe a crucifix that hangs around his neck. As you see, Maximus is right.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd have went ballistic if I saw.
Right.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see what's going to happen here.
While you're getting food out, etc., your father comes to you as he, and kind of faces the opposite way of you, close, like you're shoulder to shoulder, and says, "Damn boy, I hope you do the right thing, Sylvester." and he he'll go back about getting refreshments and cheese on the table, etc. But your father, without looking at you, just kind of shoulder to shoulder says, "I hope you do the right thing."
I just kind of hang my head. I'm trying, Father. I am trying.
Make me proud, son. Don't bring shame to your family.
And then he'll kind of go to his preferred place in the hall and leave you to your entertaining of your allies here. Watching, though, you're always aware, Sylvester, that your father's eyes are on you and listening to everything you say, right? Yes.
Oh, he's got he has the sense of a dog. All right,
man, nice. If so, I suppose when I finally enter with John, I would, let John kind of go over and hopefully humble himself in front of Sylvester and say, "Hey, here's the situation," right? And yeah. I would kind of stop and take sort of assess the room, and I would probably kind of give a nod or a simple gesture to Sylvester, and then I would make my way over to the fire, because at this point I feel like the water's probably soaked down into my bones, and that I'm really cold.
Good. Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And then after a couple of minutes, I might turn back and I would say to Sylvester, because of course I don't know who his father is yet, but I would say, "Sylvester, if it wouldn't be too much, this fire is doing wonders for warming up my bones, but some of that wine would do, well, greater wonders. Do you have enough to spare?"
Of course we do. My household, my father's household, has always been welcoming to guests of all makes. And I'll, kind of walking across the room, picking a glass up off the table, a small, clay cup off the table, presenting it to Brother Aethelwald. I'll turn and, facing towards Vidar and say, "I know that you are angry. I know that you have been through a lot, that you have lost family, you have lost livelihood, and in some ways you've lost your way. I know you've looked to me to be someone that you could trust, and out of that respect, I look at Brother Aethelwald and say that I do have something that I must confess." And I look at my father, and I look back to Vidar and say, "These people that you hate, these pagans, they are truly no different than all of us in this room. They are men and women, children, boys and girls, just like the rest of us."
You hear your father kind of clear his throat and shift around.
And I turn back to my father, kind of looking at him and say, "While many of us have been adhering to one faith or another, I am no baptized Christian."
Okay.
And that is your mother's fault.
That's where the shocked, sounds. Oh, and everybody. Oh my God!
Women if I had my way, boy, you would have been baptized a long time ago.
I'll beat the Christ into you.
Okay, let him go. Let him go. Go ahead, Del.
Yeah, just want to let you know, as it was progressing, and for the legitimacy of what's on his mind, because you've seen me want to say and mouthing words like I want to say something, but I don't really know what to say the whole time, and it becomes more agitated as you're speaking and walking around. But my eyes are darting between you and Aethelwald. I've had to deal with 2 weeks of him, and this whole Lord works in mysterious ways. It's really confounding me, and I'm out of my element so much and so deep. And I come in here to find out what you're doing, which he tells me. And you're telling me this, so I'm trying to open my mind up to it. But to tell you the truth, I might have to roll for that because I don't really know what's sinking in. I'm out of my depth at this, right? But anyway, go ahead and finish what you're saying.
No, let's. I mean, if he's getting on edge, I mean, I'm kind of like walking towards Vidar and saying, the anger that you're feeling, the rage and confusion that you're feeling, it's misdirected.
When you say you're not a professed Christian, you can tell I played up all over the place. You know, I kind of reach down on the table and hold it like I'm looking for something to grab, and my head shifts over and snaps over to look at Aethelwald, and I kind of have this like almost childish, I don't know what to do type thing.
Yeah.
Brother Aethelwald, he can fix this for you. Your holy water, brother. You can become this, Sylvester. Don't go down that path. And then my eyes are like, I look at the father too, over there, and I'm looking at, almost fleeting look at Brother Aethelwald to find out what's going on, and John, because I don't want to raise my hand, you know, and right now, you can tell I'm usually conflicted.
Maximus stands up, walks kind of into the middle of the room, and looks over at Vidar, shakes his head. Vidar appears to him to be somewhat of an idiot, maybe a little, and he feels empathy for Vidar because he knows that he's tortured by this. Maximus says,
Let's face it, this is the Middle Age. It's not.
Yeah, he looks at Vidar and he shakes his head and he basically says, "Don't waste your breath. I have worked on Sylvester. He is not going to go the route you expect him to go." And he looks at Brother Ethelwald, but we know the Lord will work magic one day, do we not? As he's looking at you, Brother Ethelwald. You know, he doesn't know your name. He doesn't know Vidar's name, right? So you guys are all these strangers sitting at his house. He's,
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I might because I don't really know. I mean, other than looking for some kind of affirmation from my colleague, I'm out of. You know, I'm dejected and defeated right now, and what I had hinged my hopes on for rebuilding my purpose, you can tell that's just kind of maybe a little bit of maturity and understanding is settling on me and accepting. But right now, I'm having a huge pivot point moment in my life, you know, and after, just been a couple of days after that happened, right? So it's like a roller coaster for me, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm down, and then all of a sudden I don't have the weapon. I've given away my land, and you're telling me this. So everything I thought I knew, I don't. So this is the shift, and whether I have a mental break or not, that's the way it is. So give me, if we want to do it for fun, you know, I can roll mine.
Let's. So Maximus kind of shakes his head as he walks out. He watches Vidar. He watches Brother Ethelwald, passes Sylvester, and meets John at the door, and says, "John, eat, drink, and be wary of this lot." And he out the door. He leaves the house, leaving all of you alone in here. Let's make a mind check versus 8 on this.
Okay. All right, I got a 4.
Oh.
At this time, I'll tell you that I start shaking and wild, and I start screaming. It's almost like the first thing, you know, when I was conflicted and buried the family and everything. You first see, so I'm almost going through that kind of a deal, and I'll start almost kind of going into a berserker like rage and swinging. I mean, if there's enough in you there to subdue me, we'll find out what happens.
John will immediately. So let's make a check against John. You need to make
I would absolutely try to step in front of Vidar again if he's starting to get
okay. So you'll offer a bonus to John, who's physically going to stop Vidar. You need to roll your body, not combat. 'Cause you don't have a weapon, but roll your body versus John with a bonus against you. So it's going to be a 9 against John.
Okay, I rolled a nat 12.
Oh, all right. Describe
Whoa.
as John tries to intervene between you and Sylvester, or you and whatever, or hold you down or whatever. Explain to me physically what you do with John.
Okay. You're saying it's John. I've kind of gone out of. It's just a figure.
Yeah, you don't know who it
And
is, right? Yeah.
Rage and everything is pinpointed toward that object, that direction. So whenever I clobber him, with my fist right in his face and clocking,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I do that. It's obviously pretty impactful.
12 is basically you broke his jaw or something. I mean, that's a critical hit. Yeah.
Would you mind, Del and Jason, if I sort of added a little bit to that
go
scene?
ahead. No, absolutely
Just
not.
to complicate
That's what
this.
you're supposed to do.
Thank you. This horrible moment for Vidar. I imagine as he is just almost blind with rage, right, and he cracks John's jaw, and I would imagine that blood kind of, and maybe some teeth kind of come out of his mouth, and he falls backwards, hitting Aethelwald, right? And I imagine that Aethelwald gets a lot of that blood again, sort of on his face, and as John kind of topples to the floor, I would fall down onto the table in the center of the room here, right? And the dishes and the glasses, or whatever, all the earthenware and the wooden whatever would clatter, and food would go everywhere. And I think I don't know. I'm not that big, so maybe the table itself wouldn't collapse. I imagine it's pretty sturdy. But I think that I would lay there as probably just stunned for a minute, just as Viadar kind of is advancing forward. And I don't know if our eyes would meet or not, but I would definitely be suffering from a concussion.
Yeah, you would have
and again blood all over my face again.
Right, so
not my own this time though.
He rolled crit. And because you were involved by aiding John, you're going to suffer battered. So you're going to be battered, right? John spins away, of course, bumping into the father. Into Ethelwald, spitting blood. You see him bent over, maybe pulling chiclets from his mouth. Blood pours from his mouth. Stunned, Sylvester. So you have seen a raging Vidar clock, knocking Ethelwald down. He's got a battered injury, and of course, John has suffered battered as well.
Okay, so when the whole thing is erupting, I'm walking towards their backs as they're trying to get into the way of Vidar, and I'm saying, "Let him through! Let him through!" And as he clocks John, and John falls one way, and I see Aethelwald. The door is just shutting because the party's getting too intense for my dad. I step forward towards Vidar, and I hold out my arms. And I say, if your violence of Christendom is going to come for me, then come for this pagan now. And I just hold my hands out.
Okay.
And then I crash onto the table.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever you do this, it's strange in my mind because right before you said you did that, this is what I had, where I was pinned up and held and reserved outside, like I felt like I'd been dropped into that den of lions or the enemy, and not necessarily knowing what to do. So it's almost like I'm death wish incarnate, but for some reason you are nothing that I want to face right now, or because you're the impetus. Ironically enough, the impetus of this whole mental change that I'm going through, it's almost like I'm running away from it instead of facing certain things. So I would have clocked him with the mindset to turn around and push open the door and face what I needed to face because I need to go. You know what I'm saying?
So you're leaving? You're going outside?
Yeah, I would have knocked open the door and stormed out to just go into oblivion. At that point.
Okay.
So,
okay. So you're standing, Sylvester.
Right now, you stand in front of me like that.
Right.
I'll turn and go straight out the door, and it's almost like an old scene.
As he's bolting through the door, I will yell after him. The enraged bull does nothing but destroy everything in its path. Either come back and face me as you see me as a pagan, or continue to run in fear.
Okay. It's going to be hard for me to put that together aside from my screen.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So
yeah.
I'm still storming out, and I'm trying to pick up anything to swing it, if any table legs or whatever. But I don't have any.
You should see if there's like a special custom made mace somewhere around this camp that you might be able to pick up.
You're outside though, right, Vidar?
Vidar went outside.
Yeah, John, you feel a hand on your arm as John pulls you around, Sylvester. Not violently, take your attention away from Vidar, and he kicks the door of your home shut, shutting Vidar outside. He looks up. You see he's missing teeth now. His blood is his lower jaw, and he said, "For my part, Sylvester, I did not turn my back on you or the people of Dredge. I did what I felt was right." And he holds his hand out to shake your hand.
All right, I will shake his hand.
And he says, there is no treachery against my soldiers or against you.
I didn't think the treachery from you would have been involved after our conversation on the road back to Dredgewater, bringing the cart. But I did not. Good to hear it.
But I did not know that the lady would issue such pogroms against the pagans.
The bitch is always the more deadliest of the pack.
This is true. And now, what will we do to stop it? What will we do to rectify this problem? And he spits another glob of blood, as he's... he's not doing anything about it. He's just bleeding and he's spitting blood as he's lost, his lower chiclets.
I give him a little friendly pat on the face, and I say, "From such a handsome man, I've never seen a better smile." If there is something that is to be done, then is Lord Washburn even alive? Does anyone know what's really going on inside the keep?
He spits, and ironically, one of the seeds I rolled is a potential spy in the keep. So he says he looks up at you, and I'll use that seed here. He kind of looks up at you and smiles wryly with a wink and says, "We have a man inside."
Then we need to know everything that's possible to find out what's going on. In the meantime, we need to collect and clean up as much of this mess as possible.
Right.
Starting with my father's home.
Right. And he smiles, spits, and looks over at Brother Ethelwald, sticks down a hand and helps Brother Ethelwald to his feet. And we will draw the curtain on this session. We can make that final chronicle of dealing with some of this mess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think we're gonna. I don't really want to try to finish it tonight.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's better to turn this. I don't think it's something we can resolve in another 2 hours, right? So, okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
That's a lot going on.
That was fantastic. So I ended up using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seeds in this session.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. What's that? I'm sorry?
Yeah. I think it was 2 the first session.
Yeah, well, I don't remember the first session, but the last time I only used 2. I only rolled 2 seeds, and they basically was all around that execution. But man, 7 seeds were introduced. Some of which, of course, you've just learned about. You haven't actually dealt with them, right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's interesting because right now I think this is a session where we were building up to a part where there was a lot of complexity, characters that were going in different directions, different worldviews, and not to mention everything that's happening in the world itself.
Right.
compounding and pressurizing that. Like, I'm literally with Vidar, he's going to run out of steam, but it's not about pagan or Christian. You know, when he wakes up in that cold awareness, he'll be like not a believer in anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what does he have faith in? Right.
Yeah. It'll be like, you know, he will. It'll be a hopeless, like cold emptiness in it. I mean, but that's where the character would have went. Like everything that we did in these sessions, there've only been probably 2 weeks of downtime and about 3 hours in the first session.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It wasn't our second session.
Mm-hmm.
The first session was like a day,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's been like a rise up and him having an epiphany. I'm just speaking from Vidar's point of view.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then right here, finding out that he placed all of his trust. You know, it's like in any relationship when you give wholeheartedly and something like that, and you go, "What the hell? Everything I thought I knew, it's
Right.
not that."
You
know what I
find
mean?
you
But
find
then-
out the significant other had never told you had never been truthful the whole time, right?
Yeah,
Or you feel that way, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
you know, for Sylvester, it was easy up until the death of
Martin.
what's his name from Washburn Arms,
Martin.
you know, Martin, because I didn't,
Martin,
you know,
yeah.
Sylvester, you know, he had no idea that kind of rage was simmering
Right.
beneath the surface of Vidar against the pagans.
Yeah.
And because
Yeah.
that's why I just said, hey, could you just keep an eye on him?
Yeah.
And then I went off to go do whatever. And then the next thing you know, you turn around. I'm like, okay, you just buried an axe in the guy's forehead. Here we go now. You know, it's like, oh, crap.
Right.
No, and I didn't do that just out of a need for action.
No. I mean, the very first session, you made it clear that Vidar was struggling with the loss of his family and his questioning of everything. Right. Yeah.
With his purpose. So, I mean, to turn around and think you've got this illumination all over you that you know, desperately needing some new purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and you think you find it only to be betrayed, like,
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
everything, and you're going, So, I mean, really, he's going to have to. It's been interesting, but I think this is a hard session because we had to face a lot of truths
Yeah.
across the board for everybody.
Oh yeah.
What we had to do.
Yeah.
Hard to struggle.
And, you know, and I'm not trying to say that none of us are doing this, but, you know, I wanted to see how Brother Aethelwald, because his responsibility was to come down here from London and
Yep.
help the conversion of the pagans and everything. And then that's why I was hoping there would be some kind of way to really not just slowly draw Aethelwald in, but just to yank him right into the middle of whatever conflict was going to erupt.
Right.
After I read the inciting incident and everything, it's like, okay, so there's problems with the family.
Yeah.
He was down here for her. So, okay. And then the thing with John, it's like, okay, here's a perfect opportunity.
Right.
John's on the out with Westwold. Maybe I can position narratively to get Aethelwald between John and Westwold and Lady Washburn.
Right.
You know, because I'm just a guard more or less to these people.
Yes.
I'm nobody.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you're the harbinger of accountability for everybody in here because you slammed the door shut. You had to put your pressure at the wall in the situation where you had to face that. Like, let's do this because you know what's going on back here.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's
with super leader mode.
Right.
that's also a little bit of pagan indifference to the Christendom.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you
Right.
still
Yeah.
leverage and play it. You need kind of people to be, accountable for what they were.
Meanwhile, Aethelwald is seeing this professed Christian being crazy and killing everybody. I mean, anybody. He'll
Right.
kill anybody if he needs to, right? And this now confessed pagan is sending him into a den of vipers and ordering him about. It's like, oh my God. But what was really interesting to me, I kind of had this realization that that Vidar, and I don't know, perhaps the clock on the head or whatever will give my character this realization too, but it's interesting that Vidar is the one who had sort of come to Christ, and yet he's actually in hell right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, I sort of thought about it. I was like, damn, what if what if the session 4 ends with, right, and then like it was the purgatory on the way to
the promised land.
What did they call it? Did they call it
Valhalla?
hell in Norse? Well, no, Valhalla would be if he died.
I don't know
the warrior. I think it's hell, HEL.
Oh, it is.
As where
Okay.
the underworld, with
I didn't know
the
that.
giant Hela or whatever, and.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if or you do a lost moment, right? And then he wakes up
Yeah, right.
alone
with
in his
Sylvester's
cabin,
dog licking him in the face.
and like his some little momentum of his wife or whatever up on the thing, and then he goes over and he like lights his fire, and then it turned out this whole thing was like his nightmare. But this is really interesting because I think that as much as Vidar is having this crisis of faith, I feel like Aethelwald is too, but going the other direction in that, like, he's seeing just this absolute horrible behavior in the name of the God that he has devoted his life to, and that, but it's confusing because it's like, what is his responsibility here, right? Like, he was just supposed to come here and like help convert some pagans. That's no big deal. Like, he wasn't going to go burn anybody or whatever. And now it's like, oh my God, am I going to have to like help commit regicide? Like, am I going to have to, I'm getting involved in politics, which is like what priests do, but like, I don't want to do that, and so it's like, oh my God. And then I'm confused because I'm like, why the hell is this even a problem in the first place? Why doesn't the prince just march in there and say, look, Pops is incapacitated, I'm taking over. Well, cut this shit out. Like, what's,
it depends
well, he
on
should.
Yeah. It depends.
I'm like, don't,
you just
don't let Mom give the orders.
He's finding all this stuff out. And so, what's amazing to me is as the presenter is the first thing I rolled as the session started was 9, which was Daedrin Alderman Railway. That's it. That's all it says. So I'm like, okay, what the hell is Alderman Daedrin doing here? Okay, he's here to say, I'm not going to join the Fjord, and more importantly, I'm here for the pagans. I'm like, all right, I'll make him a counter to this Christian bloodshedding, right? And then I rolled 13, pregnant woman. That was pretty simple. I just slid pregnant woman in, right? What does that mean? I don't know, but she's having birth. She's giving birth, right? And then I rolled something you guys haven't learned about yet, so I won't mention it. And then Wesweld. I rolled Wesweld, and I said, that's it, just Wesweld. What does that mean? And I said, holy shit, we're having this journey where Sylvester's talking to Wesweld. So what can I do with Wesweld? Can I make him what can I do? And I thought the conversation that Sai has with him, and then Sai makes the successful roll. He basically, steps up and becomes the man he's supposed to be. So far, I mean, this is just through this session, right?
I love that because to me, that is such the perfect example of Dark Ages teenage rebellion, because like there is no way on God's green earth that he would actually react that way with the fact that he was brought up with his mom and Father Falcone. Like, he should be lockstep in line with that. So he's clearly like, F you, Mom, F you, Dad. I'm going to do it my own way.
But Sai made the roll to, again, so the role play has to be supported by a check. The check sways what I would have, in a traditional game, the DM would just decide who Wesweld is and fuck everybody. Exactly. And I would be Wesweld and fuck it, But what I love about this is like, dude, what am I going to do with Wesweld? And then we have this conversation, and from that, it's like, okay, in a way, that is cool. It prompts me to say this check actually changes what I might have done with Wesweld, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's really fitting too in the grand sort of arc of this story that we're telling, because and for Aethelwald's personal story as well, because it's like, again, you see the positive influence of the pagan on the Christian to do the right thing.
Right.
Why is it, and coupled
with all the horrors that have occurred, right? It's like, okay.
And it's like, if we put these people to death, like that never would have happened. And so, it's this whole like thing, but it's wild.
And then I rolled another one that you guys aren't aware of. And then I rolled John, Dar, and Jules. That's all it says. John, Dar, and Jules. Well, what about John, Dar, and Jules? Well, so I immediately thought, well, Jules is a pagan. He got in trouble. He got publicly whipped. Dar is an ex-Viking. And then I thought, well, I guess John will have abandoned his post to join Dar and Jules against this pogrom, right? And then I had to place him in the fiction. I'm like, well, where else would Jules have gone? The last place that Sylvester said was a safe haven. Go to my home. So again, this is what's great. And I just roll up this thing, and I'm like, what does that? What does that mean? John, Jules, and Dar. And I just try to piece it based on what's already occurred, So Jules' motivation to take Dar and John to Sylvester is because Sylvester said, go there and hide until I come and get you. You just make sense of it, right? And then I have another one here that you guys haven't encountered yet. But I rolled 7, 3 of which you don't really know anything about yet. And the other 4 actually came into play, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is
so
really
for me,
cool.
I mean, what's the joy for me is we got this thing going. We have to keep continuity. We have to make sense of it, and it has to have a game in which you're challenging and making challenges, but yet we're taking into account your attributes. Like there were a couple of checks you didn't have to make because your repute was so high, right?
Yeah.
And again, you guys didn't actually resolve a major or minor incident yet, so we'll just carry this session over to Chronicles 4. And you might resolve a major or minor incident. So I couldn't give repute since you didn't actually resolve an incident yet, right? You might well be on the way to, right? Anyway, and for me, it's just exciting because you're like, I got to keep all these pieces making sense, and then I roll something, I got to now slide into the...
Yeah, and you're like, what the heck am I going to do with this?
But it's a different kind of fun. It's a different kind of on-the-fly gaming, right?
Oh, 100%.
You know, what complicates it even further is the character development that we have going on with them. When you have to contend with all that and that creates conflict in itself on a mega level. With Vidar, he wouldn't be as the problem he had. What occurred because most Vikings when they accepted Christ, it was into a pantheon. Mm-hmm. So there really wasn't. It was a couple hundred years before they figured it was one God.
Right.
But if you remember, whenever he was kicked off of Falcone because, you know what I mean? Because back in their days, paganism, you worship God for what that God can do for you.
Right.
So that was the concept of Christ. You said if I do this, you can do that for the pantheon. So when everything went south for him, and then he's kicked off of Falcone, but then Falcone, remember that when you asked him when you were nursing, Falcone was nursing him back to health and said, I saw that black smoke you had. Did you not just give yourself totally over? And then I was caught going like, there's multiple gods. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute. Then I had that epiphany. Remember when I set down the bowl, or when Vidar set down the bowl, half eaten, in a starving land? Mm-hmm. He got up. That was when he had that aura. And then he put together Sylvester and everything like, you know what I mean? Everything, all the stars were aligning.
Yeah.
And then he found his path and had meaning all of it.
Right.
That's why I had to play it whenever everything crashed down.
Right. Well, Vidar did what many people do. They conflated two different things.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that was the problem with
Sylvester's commitment to doing the Lord Washburn's work as a soldier. Vidar conflates that with he must be a Christian, therefore this is the way to go, kind of thing, right? Then to find out that he just didn't know who Sylvester was, right? What's fascinating too is again, you don't prepare this stuff. It's kind of that scene with Falcone lingers as the causation of why Vidar's been in a way fucked up.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Falcone
is this character that's kind of now is persuaded based on my description that Falcone's been advising Lady. It turns out Falcone's kind of, again, what's the title of the session? In the hands of the false prophet. I mean, Falcone's turned out to be an evil fuck.
Oh,
right?
God, I hate that guy.
Right, and the irony is all he did was say to Vidar, by accident, not by accident, but hey, did you give yourself fully to Christ? Who would have thought that would be the catalyst for part of Vidar's problems, right?
Yeah,
Just a
it's interesting, right? Because it's
for him have to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's really fascinating is like sort of the character arc that I'm going through is interesting in the sense that it's really trying to wrestle with that juxtaposition, right? Of, this man Vidar went to the priest, the guy that you're supposed to go to for guidance and for clarity and for salvation, and he manipulated him, which unfortunately they do so often, right? And basically made him see God as this: if you don't follow my rules, I'll punish you. God, versus what Aethelwald has been taught, which maybe isn't the norm at this time, but what his belief is more of the forgiving God, who's like, look, you guys are going to make mistakes over and over and over again, because you're human and you have free will, but you ask for forgiveness and you try to repent for your sins, and all will be forgiven, right? And it's like, so how does he? So it's like, he comes into this thing being like, yeah, you just need to convert some of these pagans. And he's like, all right, I'll just convert some of these pagans. No big deal. Gets me out of London. This is cool. And then he's like, this is the worst vacation I've ever had. And now I just got punched out in this guy's house. I got hit by a Viking. This is just going
first
real,
he shows
real
up
bad.
And it's famine and flooding.
Yeah.
And wow.
Yeah. And then there's this miracle, and I'm like, wow, cool. But then I'm like, oh God. Like I need, what I need? I need another miracle. That's what we gotta work that out somehow. God,
well, one of the seeds I rolled could well demand it of you, right? So there's a seed here you have yet to embrace or run into. But
that
the minute I rolled
scary,
it, I went, oh shit, Ethelweld's going to be put to it now.
Well, so honestly, like as much fun as it is, like just sort of discovering what's going to happen through playing, I almost want, I have two different ways that I want Aethelwald's arc to end. I either want him to, and I'll be happy with whatever happens, but I either want him to sort of become like a warrior priest, in the sense that like he's like, you know what? Like, forget it. Like, you're up there. I'm doing everything I can down here. And what is it amounting to? Everybody's just killing each other. Right. So I'm going to just pick the side that I want and go for it. Or I want him to get, nailed up on a cross and have him like, be the martyr, and Falcone. Yeah. And Falcone wins. But I'm like, oh, that would suck so much. But it would be so fitting.
Well, that's just it. We don't know, right? We don't know. I don't even know what I'll roll that'll impact play to the point that it... I mean, for instance, all you know is what is transpired. That's it. And then once that variable runs into Sai, or once that variable runs into Ethelwald, or once that variable runs into... We don't know where that variable is. I mean, I never thought... When you start the session, you're headed to Dredgewater in the face of these rumors that you've heard about the pogroms. But we ended up at Sylvester's family home because I rolled John, Dar, right? Where it all kind of comes to this. It's kind of like, if you've ever had those moments where you have to come to Jesus, but with a family, you have kind of have that battle where you have to purge all your bullshit before you can go deal with the real problem, right?
I mean, it's like Thanksgiving when, it's like when family you invite over like... Yeah, you invite over the girlfriend who's wearing 15 nose rings and she's Wiccan and has purple hair, and meanwhile your parents, are the buttoned up Christian types with, and it's like, and then all of a sudden they're like, and they've been trying to stay polite the whole time, and then finally,
and then it finally blows up, right?
It's like, okay, let's say grace, and the girlfriend's like, no, I don't do that, and then they're like, and meanwhile, the best friend or whatever looks over to the other guy and he's like, man, we got to get out of here. Like, let's go smoke something.
We got to let them fight it out. Let them duke it out.
We got to go. Yeah.
Well, Brian, what is your take? What is your take with Sylvester and the...
I mean, with Sylvester and what?
Well, just in general, Sylvester, your character and the session.
I've been looking, thinking about some way to have the whole pagan thing come out. And that's why I had, after reading the opening incident and everything like that, I was going to base off the direction I was going to go somewhat with the little bit of discussion with Weswell.
Right.
Is the son like the father? Is he different than the father? Is he ambivalent? How is the next ruler going to be? Because I hope in the last session, kind of showed that I want there to be peace.
Yes, of course.
Some way or another. Mm-hmm. So it was going to be a really downer if Weswell was like, "Yeah, screw those pagan," blah,
well, but you actually had
you could just die out in your woods here, boy.
But the irony is the role play and what you said to him creates a role that actually affected play, which is pretty sweet.
And it's because I was hoping to, when you said, "Oh, you guys are going to be out there in the woods, and he's going to, he's listening to you, he's actually trying to learn." I'm like, okay, well, maybe
you can influence
Sylvester can have some influence here, so let's go for that. But it not just with him there, but also his need to, smooth things out with Vidar.
Right.
Because from the first session, when that whole change thing happened, I mean, Sylvester was looking at Vidar going, "Why are you looking up to me, man? Well, I'm just the guy, I'm just the guy with the dogs." And so he kind of he feels like, I've seen what he's doing. I've seen what he's done. I owe him the truth. I need to tell him what the truth is, so that we can move on. Well, sometimes you just have to be slapped with the truth to get you to move on.
Yeah.
But sometimes moving on means you move on to the afterlife, because I feel like that's what was going to happen here.
Yeah.
Well, but that could have been how it turned out. I mean, I fully expected, okay, if he fails the mind check, what are the chances that he's just going to come at me? Okay, so let's make this a come at me, bro moment and then when you hop in, and that was perfect, because it was like, okay, here come the two defenders, and Sylvester's like, "No, screw it. Let him through.
Right.
If he wants to fight, let's fight."
Yeah.
Me as a player, I'm going to accept if he clocks me out and kills me, then that's Sylvester's story. He tried to come out, he's trying to do the right thing, and got squashed like a bug.
Right.
Right.
Well, I always try to get my characters killed, so it's
clearly you keep stepping into Vidar's path, you're bound to, right?
Yeah, eventually you will. Yeah.
I'll tell you something that's beautiful. Even it's funny how when Vidar is dealing with somebody, like even in the last episode, he can't get what Ethelwald is trying to tell him. This whole philosophy, right, coming over his head, because he still understands religion as what the God does for you.
Right.
So anyway, and using the methodology where you leverage your strength, and it's a strong God. Even historically, to reach the Vikings, they had to portray Jesus as not being sacrificial, but facing different things like willfully. But anyway, so whenever you said that in the prelude to this, that in the downtime, Vidar's sitting there and he learns about Eric, rumors about him, building a cathedral, and he's getting his money in some ways that's not so or even Christian. Well, honestly, that's why I was all happy-go-lucky coming back and kind of poking fun, trying to understand Ethelwald where he was coming from. Not really, but I said, let those. They've already chose their lot, right? Those refugees that didn't go Howard County, because I knew that the Vikings were on the river, the sea people. I said they're going to Odin's Carrying. I thought from the rumors, which wasn't specified, that Eric was selling into slavery to the sea people. All the
to the Vikings.
Land, cleansing of the land. Like I said, in the thing, that was, but it was funny because when you said that, somebody might go like, "Oh, I need to stay here and I need to deal with Eric because it's not Christian." On that level, to me, I was like, that's the most Christian thing from Vidar's perspective that you could do. You do the temple while you get rid of the pagans, and then you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like,
you know what the problem is? The problem was, I think that, well, I guess first of all, can Vidar read?
No.
No. Okay. So the only access to the Bible that he would have had would have been through the spoken word of Falcone, which I feel like maybe would have been very limited and slanted. And so it's like,
it's the gospel according to Falcone.
Yeah. Right. It's like, who's that Moses guy who was all about, like, let's not have slaves, right? No. We're just going to sell this, sell them into slavery. We're good. Sell them to the pagans, no less. Like, no.
To be fair, like I said, if he was approaching a Northman's mindset, he had to God in a certain way.
Well, and I wasn't.
And the worst part is, like, that could very well be true. Like that,
the funny thing
historically, that could have been true.
When I write those incidents, they're to give you information, and I didn't know if Vidar would have stayed behind to determine where he's getting his money.
But see, to me, that was like it's beautiful. I made that assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, the pagans, they're getting sold into slavery.
Right. So it doesn't matter what the truth is. It only matters that Vidar says, "Fuck, let him make his money selling the pagans." Right? Yeah. It doesn't make any difference how he's really
Vidar's all about like he's like, I'm living my truth, man.
He's building this deed on Christ, and I'm like, I'm dealing with Aethelwald, but he don't really get it.
Yeah, and if Aethelwald's a question, where is this little lord getting all the money to build this, and why is this city? Aethelwald didn't seem to care, so why should you, Vidar?
Well, no, because but if you think about it, right, like Aethelwald has probably seen the grand cathedrals in London, maybe even in Rome, and so he's like, look, I know the church has money, like, come on.
And this would be crap by comparison to what you've seen in London,
right? Yeah.
But for the local little Howard town, it's like, whoa, where's this coming from, right? Yeah, but
I know.
Again, it's not a mission or anything; it's just data. Then the characters hit the ground, and then we roll some variables, and we follow those characters. Again, if you guys are playing authentically to your character, and we haven't messed with the context of what we've already learned and what we already know, that part gives us the boundaries of what we're all agreeing is our magic circle, right? And then, of course, I just have to say, what are these things that get in the way, or what are these things that complicate or cause conflict? If Sylvester doesn't say those things when I roll Wesweld, and I'm like, what am I going to do with Wesweld? This is going to be interesting. And then he has that conversation with him, makes that roll. It changes Wesweld from being, in a way, another conflict or another problem to being an ally or an asset now that at least is a little more tolerable for Sylvester. Had he felt that role, I don't know where I would have gone with Wesweld. I would have definitely gone in a direction that would not have been something. And because Wesweld was in the company of Sylvester, Wesweld would have directly affected Sylvester, right?
I think Sylvester would have come back without the Lord, and the young Lord, and he would have said, "I'm sorry, but the horse threw a shoe, and unfortunately, the young Lord fell and broke his neck." Right. There was nothing I could do. I did kill the horse just because.
It should.
He was
You've
the one
responsible. Kill the horse if it kills the young.
But
that's what's fun. When I roll it, I don't know what this means. Right? What is this?
He had an accident.
There's so much stuff that we've had that we've been able to build into context, even though the whole time is only like a week, 2 weeks, and 3 or 4 days.
Right.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks.
The previous session, when Sylvester had to go and report to Lord Washburn,
right?
You always have you don't want to pre-imagine what's going on.
No, right.
But I totally had like a Joe Abercrombie moment, last Argument of Kings, where Lord Washburn is getting pissed at me. He's now I'm the guy who's going to get beheaded, and I'm like, no, I'm jumping out this window, buddy. I'm going to be an outlaw now.
Yeah. And it could have gone that way.
And it could have gone that way. It's just like, okay, they're both interesting paths.
Yeah.
Right?
We're discovering the chronicles of these three heroes, but we have no clue if they're going to be villains, heroes, if they're going to survive, if they're going to die, if they're going to face their lord, if they're going to... That's what's been so amazing about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and we've been able to all of us been able to keep everything in context.
Yes.
And keep trying to
Right.
to get everybody involved, you know?
Right. And that's what's so important about the John, when I rolled John, Jules, and Dar. I mean, I immediately said, I've got to keep this into context of what we already know about Jules, Dar, and John. Well, we know John was a master at arms, right? That's, what can I do with this? Well, Dar we knew was a Viking, a pagan who was turned blacksmith. And then, of course, the Jules. So, again, for me, it was like, well, it makes sense that during this mess, they would all abscond away to maybe organize or at least get away from being, killed by. And of course, introducing them in the only place I thought Jules would find salvation, Sylvester's home. I think Brian was like, holy shit, they killed my family. What the fuck? You know what I mean? It's like, well, that's not where I'm going with this, but it's, But you're right.
Well,
Keeping the context. I mean, even though this is, I don't know, I'm naive. We're not naive in ignorance. We're naive in the idea of what I expect the story, what I want you to encounter.
Right. It's like the track is laid, but it isn't. But it's laid
not from ignorance.
Almost as it's being played, as opposed to you've laid out the track and you know where the players are going relatively.
Yeah. But I am required to make sense of it.
Right.
And each of us are laying the track.
Yes,
I mean, it's not
guys
like
are.
one person is, constantly doing that.
Yeah.
The flexibility is one of the things I've been loving too. Is that Vidar can be off doing his thing real quick, and Aethelwald's over there, and then we got two people come together here, and now all three of us are together.
Right.
It does feel when we're able to do that a lot more like the Viking show. Right,
yes.
We get to see
or
who's off over here doing what, and you collect some information
the
there.
adage, don't split the party, is not relevant to Dark Age. It's not relevant at all.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we could do like Star Wars, screen wipe back to Han and Leia, right? Screen wipe back to Luke, and It's and it works. And now, granted, unfortunately, that means people are kind of sitting back, but in a way, that's good because it gives you a chance to decompress and think about what's going on too, right?
Well, and it's at its heart, it's collective storytelling. So you're sitting back, but you're sitting back watching this story unfold in which you're taking part. So it's really neat. And even if you're not there in that scene, it's still like. So that's what I appreciate, about the system, about this group, whatever is because and I say this all the time, right? But it's like you have to have trust in the people that you're playing with and the game master that everybody will work together to create a cool story. Right. And what I love is that there aren't, in this game, you don't have to think tactically and mathematically to achieve a certain outcome, right? It really all you need to do
comes up
is
from your
just play true to actions. That.
So if you're giving a speech in which you're going to affect change upon, it's a spirit check because you're giving a spiritual right. You actually made a combat check that was a spirit check against Dar grabbing you and flinging you out of the way so you could kick Vidar's ass, right? And your spirit came into play because of what you were saying to Vidar. Right.
Yeah.
So had you been saying, hey, you know what? If you said something else, it might have been mind or it might have been your body. So I'm thinking, okay, he's saying some spiritual things that will impact this body check against him, which to fling you out of the way and end up in a melee in So that's what's interesting about it. The flexibility. You're not actually looking at your character. She said, well, this is what I want to use. I'm going to use this. You're literally being your character, and then if I'm listening properly, I'm saying, okay, he's invoking another spiritual event here.
Right.
That would be used as a combat check, although you're not actually in combat. Vidar and Dar are. But
that's the most amazing thing to me is that we've played 3 sessions in which a lot of story has taken place, and I haven't really gotten into combat. It's really amazing. Well, I have, but incidentally,
Well, you inserted yourself into these situations.
Yes, right, exactly. But it's fun because it's not like, okay, but now I got to whittle down hit points, and I have to worry about does this feat come into play here? Because then what happens is that influences how I'm going to play my character and what action I'm going to take.
Right.
Versus the only time I need to look at my sheet is to remember if my number is a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever. Right. And and
so, it's my job
so
really to say, obviously you're invoking spirit or you're invoking prestige is a big one. When you give orders to your minions or to other, prestige becomes the key element because you're using your class, your prestige to demand and make some orders.
Yeah.
And the combat could easily come up just from all of these. I mean, my God, there's stuff on here that would have been very interesting, dangerous combat stuff, right? I just didn't happen to roll them, right? But and they could turn that way depending on how you approach the scenario or you approach the variable, right? But there's plenty of stuff here that could have been remarkably dangerous.
Right. Well, right, and it's like I'm trying my hardest to like avoid getting into physical confrontation, but I think what I'm starting to realize about Aethelwald is like he might be a little too brave for his own good.
Yeah.
In the sense that like he doesn't like inaction.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why I was having a hard time with John, because I was like, man, you're talking about this stuff, but like you ran away and you try to justify it as well. I was repositioning so that I could come back. And I'm like, yeah, well, tell that to all the pagans whose heads are up on the wall, right? And so, like, what I'm realizing is that Aethelwald,
and what's great about that is that's your truth, that's your perspective.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what I know of John or what I'm thinking of John, right? That's how people relate to each other. We make assumptions about their motives, which are, that's life, that's characters, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and I have to kind of deal with the conflict of the idea that like Aethelwald is willing to die for what he thinks is right, and he expects other people to do that. And so when they don't, then that's his moment where he has to be like, wait a minute,
right?
Like, okay, I realize they're not me.
The righteousness. That's where the righteousness comes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
well, I'm sure Sylvester has some of that, right? A little of that with Sylvester,
It's somewhat, yeah.
But, I mean, at least with John, your master at arms, he was your commander.
With John, it was, but that's the, the rank and file, in knowing that without assuming anything about the histories, right? That John and Sylvester know each other. They've probably, eaten together. Yep. Had more or less grown up together in Washburn or in Dredgewater, and then to hear that this is what he's done, that's kind of a letdown. The same thing, but it's not as extreme experience for me as it is for Vidar.
Right,
right. Yeah. It's not this. I saw John. I mean, it's a surprise to me that this is what's happening, but then I'm also reflecting, hey, I have been in a kind of a situation where I could be on that same path if it comes down to it.
Very well, right. Well,
but then for Vidar and Sylvester, it's just way more extreme,
right?
Yeah,
it's amazing. And again, the motivations we don't know. Again, I happen to write this as John, Jules, and Dar. I looked at Jules and said, well, Jules makes the most sense because he was going to be executed. Sylvester stepped in and talked, convinced Lord Washburn he isn't what you think he is. It was my doing, but he got publicly whipped for it. Then they issued the pogroms, killing the pagans, and they all got the hell out of Dodge, so to speak.
Yeah.
John obviously saying, wait a minute, I'd signed on to wage war against the Vikings, but I didn't sign on for this. And so, but I just thought, how am I going to fit these three together? Well, there it is. And where the hell would they go? And for me, it was like, oh shit. Many of them are very easy. You roll something like pregnant woman. Okay, what does that mean?
I mean, you can find a place to put that in. Yeah,
and it's not.
And that was actually a really good spot too.
Yeah, it was. Well, and I thought, okay, they're with this mass of women and children that have been. Wesweld has called them to him and said, "Trust me, we're going to fix this. Come home, come back with me." And I'm thinking, and I wrote pregnant woman. I'm like, holy cow, we got this mass of people. Makes sense that this would occur, but But it could have been pregnant woman with a story, right? In traditional D&D, it'd be a pregnant woman saying, "Hey, my husband's vanished. Go find him. I don't want to give birth to my kid without my husband." I could have come up with some nonsense.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, she literally is going to give birth to this child on the road. And
well, the nice thing about that prompt though is that its story was kind of built already on its own.
Right.
We knew that her husband was probably either dead, hung, or in that pen. We don't, and in fact, right now we still don't even know if he's alive. Right. So I mean,
and neither
just
do I.
having
I'm
the
naive.
Prompt, just having the prompt of pregnant woman and being able to say, "Hey, this is the perfect situation just to drop this in and see what happens, and we can kind of move on."
Well, and it's how you deal with it. I
maybe
mean,
it evolves.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Dell's character might have said, "You women take care of it, Jesus," and walked away. Right. It's one of those things where Sylvester, what's interesting about the variables is it's a place for your characters to engage the world the way you want your character, the way you feel your character would engage the world. And I don't give a shit about the pregnant woman. I'm just the guy going, "Hey, pregnant woman, what?" Sylvester could have said, I thought she was being killed or some shit. Get this woman on her feet, get her out of here. He could have gone, and that becomes a chance for you to, and again, you turned it into you turned it in, and this is what's amazing about it. Pregnant woman led to a scene in which you're able to recruit this allyship with these pagan women, which you never know might come up later on your behalf, or right. I then later narrated
a lot of pagan women killed. I'm just saying,
right? And I then later said, "Oh, by the way, Vidar, you see these same group of women that were traveling with Sylvester going into Daedra's camp." Right, so these women are now they're actually a vehicle I have to keep track of and make sure I put them somewhere. Right, they're relevant to the world. They're not just a passing. Right, and because Sylvester allied with him and convinced them and made a truce, and because of a pregnant woman.
Well, that led to two different small scenes, right?
Yes.
The scene with the pregnant woman, and then
the scene with
trying
the older
to say,
woman.
"Hey, I'm here to help," and then they're like, whatever. Okay, well then, how can Sylvester prove that he will stand by his word?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's amazing, but you could have just said, "Eh." I mean, I think there was a game that Dell and I, when we first were playtesting these ideas, and I put in front of him the guy who says, "Hey, man, I'm the rightful king of Howardtown," and Dell said, "No, you're not. You're a jackass," and he got it and walked away, and left the prince alone, right? And so I said, "Well, what's the prince going to do without Dell's help?" Well, he's going to wander off and try to recruit people. Well, those people ended up, these bandits. He goes to recruit people, and the bandits turn out to murder him and kill him and leave the little girl. And then Dell's dragging around a little girl through the whole. He's basically now responsible for the prince's little sister. So because of that decision, Dell is babysitting this little girl through the whole session.
So Dell basically played the Mandalorian, but in
before the Mandalorian was ever
Ages
out.
England.
We did Mandalorian before Mandalorian was out.
I had to lose my
nice
to save the girl. It was really a toss-up.
But it was
terrible.
Yeah. But I mean, that's my point. It's it's kind of, for me, it's just fun. It's fun to say, wow, okay. Because you guys already have your characters, right? You're working in the world. You trust I'm not going to change the context of what's happening. You trust that what I've said is at least legitimate truth, is going to stay true. And now you've got these characters that are navigating your motives, your conflicts. And then, of course, you're navigating each other. And then, of course, there's going to be variables that pop up to complicate. It's basically a complication. Other role-playing games do this. They just do this in a different mechanical way, probably, right?
Right.
It's just so under the hood that you can really delve into character development and character interaction with it and your people. So it's really unique, and I love doing that because you feel more fully realized. Character, like what's going to happen to Vidar? Literally, the only way I can see, and I don't really know, but if his world comes like this, he might be just pitiless and different. If he does survive, if he walks into and gets killed, he probably just feels like throwing it all towel in. What do you do after you're watching it? You have this flicker of hope,
right?
You know what I mean? We were all questioning how are these characters going to end up, and you actually care about it. It was a hard session.
100%, yeah.
There's a lot of character truths and came to realizations, and then you go, what is going to happen to this? And what would he do?
Mhm.
You know, so
Yeah.
you really feel,
Mhm.
you feel like driven to express this character fully and genuinely.
Authentically,
Otherwise,
Yeah.
yeah.
you feel like you're shortchanging yourself and everybody at the table and the character.
Mhm.
You know?
But it's
So
complicated,
really,
Yeah.
and it grows. And it grows more
what I-
complicated by the situations, and it grows more complicated by
Yeah.
the variables, and it becomes so. Not only are you trying to be authentic character, you're dealing with stuff you can't control, other characters that are, and I think it just makes
Mhm.
it. Is it tiring to you guys? Is it harder to do this than say D&D, where you?
Oh God, no.
Yeah.
It's so much more rewarding. I think to speak to kind of what Del was saying, it's like when you are able to be in that frame of mind where the players have faded out and you really are interacting as the character. Right. Like, at least for me, that I'm able with this game and with this group to really get pretty heavily immersed in the character because and the other characters, right? Because like it was really hard watching Del portray that obvious struggle, right? That Vidar is going through, and with Brian, like with Sylvester being like, Jesus, like this stuff is all coming crashing down on me, like. I'm just a guard. I just want to I just don't want anyone to die. It's like, but it's cool because it like they're really good at humanizing these characters.
Yes.
And so it's beautiful to sit there and to witness that, but also then to be able to contribute to that. And I think, for me, like that's what a role-playing game is for me, right? I love that part of it. And the most. I mean, it's a game and there are rules and that's part of it, but like to me being able to get into that headspace and to be able to really feel that. Yeah.
Because I try to be in character even when we're not expressing characters. But it doesn't
100%.
always make any difference, right? I mean, when you're doing a dungeon crawl, it feels very much. Sometimes it just feels very much like you're, well,
you're moving. You're in your mind moving your token along. You're mechanically playing to gain the best advantage. Where I think
there's only so much character that can occur in a dungeon between a group of guys that are literally, moving from door to door to treasure to goblin to goblin. Right? You're only going to have so much character.
You mean the crawl?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think we could have a pretty fun dungeon crawl in this system because, in a way, it feels even scarier than like your traditional
because
D&D,
you don't
even the
have
OSR
all
stuff.
the
Because
tools. You don't have all the tools at your disposal.
It's not just not all the tools. I mean, the scale of
danger,
the lethality and the combat are very different.
Yep.
I mean, it's funny because like I was just watching one of the who is it? The Dungeon Delve. He does a lot of solo and board game.
Oh yes,
stuff.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
So he was talking with the other woman who does solo stuff, who had the solo Game Master's Handbook come out from Ophidius. So in the conversation they were talking about, he started going off about how he didn't understand, the mindset that some people believe that a badge of honor for a game is how deadly or how fast characters can die. And it's one of the few times I've commented on his channel. It's like, it's not honor. It's about having that as an absolute risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've played in games.
Yep. They're seeing lethality from the wrong perspective. It's
I've played in games where literally like I couldn't get the character killed.
No.
Like, because of the way that the
Dragon
GM
Age
was running the game.
Me too. Yeah.
I couldn't get the character killed, so why do I care?
Well, and that's the worst part. Like Dragon Age. So Dragon Age flat tells you in the book, be aware these characters are going to get to level 20. I mean, it flat tells you in the Dragon Age book, which implies these are heroes, and you're really not.
Yeah.
You're gonna throw some shit at them, and they're gonna do their stuff, but you're really not gonna. Well, here's the problem, and this has happened to me in many games of class-based, level-based. Guys get bored. They know they can't die, or you're not willing to kill them, and they're going to become even more of that psychopathic murder hobo, right? So you're right. I mean, that's another. But again, there is a sense that lethality matters because it makes your character that much more valuable, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Why? I mean, part of it is the idea that, if you're going to invest this in a character, there's got to be something to lose. What's the most important thing to lose? Well, the story is the most important thing to lose. Mm-hmm. It's not that you just haven't lost the character, but the backstory and everything that you've built up now comes to a screeching halt.
Right.
So do you continue to throw yourself in front of, bigger and greater risks? Yep. And then just because something pops up, you don't, the character never runs. Right. The character never turn tail or does something else to get around an issue.
Right. Well, and this harkens back to the video I made years ago about meaningful. People used to bitch, about meaningful death. It's meaningless death. No. It's meaningful death because you've had a meaningful character.
Exactly.
And if Sylvester dies or Ethelwald dies or Vidor dies, it'll mean more to us because they've had a meaningful character. Yeah. That's what makes a meaningful death, not this idea that death is meaningless. No, the character makes meaning of the death.
Yeah.
Right. And
I think it's hard too, though. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. I was done.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, I think it's hard because I know for me, a lot of it is the intentionality that you go into the game with, right? So, I remember a great example of a game, Jason, that I think you ran, Basic Fantasy, and it was like me and Ivan and Don and something. Yeah, and we were going through, and that's a game where you don't really create a backstory for your character, right? Because it doesn't make sense to do that. But that was so much fun for me because I was really invested because of the fact that the game could be so lethal.
Yep.
I was invested in trying to keep my character alive. Right. And so it was a different type of game because, you're not getting quite as immersed per se in the role play and in the character. But what you are doing is you're invested in the character.
Right. Well, and what was cool
is you want to keep them alive.
Yeah, we still saw your characters come out. What's cool about that is we actually learned your characters through play versus some idea that I'm bringing this character to the game. I mean, your character, we began to learn it, and Donnie's character, we began to learn quickly who her character was. And, of course, that game ended with Ivan, Ivan's character, he ended up basically escaping onto the other side of the mountain and blocking you guys off. I mean, the characters actually came to the top of that, right?
Exactly.
But we learned the characters through play versus, which we are here too, but you're right. You don't have time to kind of backstory your characters there, and you don't know if they're going to live, so
Yeah, well, and so the reason I brought that up was that it seems to me that the ideal Dragon Age player is not the one that's looking for that sort of combative approach or that what do you want to call it? Competitive type thing, right?
Yeah, and
because they always say, it's not you against the GM, and that's true. Right. But the GM is the one putting the obstacles in your place, and you want to overcome them. Well, so if that's the kind of game that you're used to or that you like, it sounds like Dragon Age is gonna feel weird because
and I think it comes from the video game mentality. The people who would have bought the Dragon Age board game were thinking in the mentality that, you don't die in Dragon Age. You reset, or you reload, or you reboot.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do that in a tabletop game that's really... let's put it this way. If I said to you, hey, guys, you can't die, we just restart. We'll reload. You would say, there's no fucking way I'm playing that, right? But we do it in video games all the time. Right?
Having an autosave before a major event would be really helpful. I'm just saying.
Right. Right. But that's what's funny about it. It's like when you talk about not harving back to the dungeon delving video that finds when a guy says, hey man, what's the point? It's so lethal. What's the badge of honor? Wait a second. What's the badge of honor with never die?
Yeah, exactly.
Why is being invincible even worth your time?
The most common retort that most people when I ask them about this kind of thing is they say, well, of course, the people will quote some source of literature. Well, these characters didn't die. Well, yeah, that's because it's a book.
Yeah.
The author if the author wanted the character to die, the character would die.
Yes. Yes.
But it also comes down to, well, the story just ends, and that's not very satisfying. Well, I mean, I could give you the old Ernest Hemingway quote. Any story that goes on long enough ends in death.
Yes.
Whether that's another character's death or your character's death, that is the end of their story.
That's it.
So should you not have kicked in the door when you only had 3 hit points left, and should you have retreated? And just because you make a decision not to be
safe
on a confrontation, on a confrontation grind, right? If that's what characters do too. Well, it's like, I never saw characters eat in a movie. Really? I mean, they were eating all the time in Lord of the Rings.
You never see them go to the bathroom.
Listen, some of the greatest scenes.
I can name a few bathroom scenes. I mean, not like
fair enough, but it's rare.
Some of the greatest scenes in cinema are dinner table confrontations.
Yeah,
American Beauty, brilliant dinner table conference. I mean. So they're not only eating; they're actually progressing character in these scenes, right?
In Lord of the Rings, when it's like, I don't think he knows about second breakfast, Pip. Like, Pulp Fiction, of course. It's like, they're Royale with cheese.
But I mean, they're actually eating. I think at the Denny's at the end, right? When the nonlinear storytelling of Pulp Fiction. There's again, it's. But where those scenes in film or gaming fail is when they have to progress character. If they don't progress character, they have to progress story. So if we're going to do a campsite scene in D&D, and we're going to waste time at a campsite scene, and most of what happens in a campsite scene in Dungeons & Dragons is, whoops, I rolled a wandering monster. Who's on watch? It's a combat, right?
Exactly.
But if we're going to have a campsite moment, and it's going to involve actual role play, it has to further character, or it has to further the actual direction of the game. And I think that's what's lost. So, again, books and film are not role-playing, but the concepts are still true. If you guys are going to have a conversation with NPC or with each other, it needs to be more than just arbitrary. Well, there's A and there's B. Let's do C. Well, we could have done that in meta as players. We didn't need to do it in character as characters. So hopefully everything is a meaningful character progression, right? Even if we're just learning about your character, which in a game like this, it is important. The campsite scene is important because it's going to give me context to what I may roll here too, right?
Trying to read your notes there, buddy. You keep flipping them up there.
Except the blur is going to prevent it, so he's good. Yeah,
right? But that's what's interesting about it. So that's the mistake movies make for sure is pointless scenes that don't actually give us more important information about characters or about story. Bad filmmakers are bad filmmakers. Well, good ones, you don't even realize you're learning something about the characters, right?
The best films, it's not really the story, it's how the audience connects to the character or characters. That's right? And if you accomplish that, you've succeeded. Yes. It doesn't matter if you have the best special effects or a stupid plot line. Like, if the characters are good, people will cling to that for a long time. And then you have to have some story to go with it. Otherwise,
I'm a huge documentary fan. I love documentaries. Documentaries provide a couple of things. Mostly information, right? We learn something, we watch a documentary. But the best documentaries have people that we actually follow through them, and we begin to bond with that person. We begin to recognize the value of this person we're following through the documentary. It's remarkable. I've been watching Nazi documentaries on the Nazis, right? And it's like the guys that do these best documentaries on the history of the Nazis and the German bullshit are the ones that provide us the character sketch of Himmler. And I mean, you really do come away saying these are evil fucking people. These were evil incarnate, and they do it in such a way that they're not telling you how evil they are. You get it through the actual documentary information. You come away going, holy shit, I mean, in the history of mankind, how did this happen, right? Who are these people?
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's amazing.
You don't have to bond with them or like them. You can come away hating them too. You can come away going, "Holy shit,
Yeah.
these people were nuts. These people were nuts." And,
Yep.
that makes good documentary too, right? We care about people. We don't care about dice. We don't care about gold. We don't care about
Right.
money. We care about people, right?
What's interesting is that all of us have characters that we can more than sympathize, we can empathize
Yeah.
with.
Mhm.
Across the table, they're going like, crap, he's going through some hell, and then
Yeah.
he's going through hell. I hate to be in his situation or his shoes, but you're
Right.
understanding the struggle. And we can see that intimately across the table. Not only that, but
Yeah.
I mean, I still remember that. I was laughing about that the other day whenever I did kill Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And in Idar's time that was there, and then both of y'all were like, "Oh my god!" You know what I mean?
So was I. I'm like, "Oh shit!"
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. Where'd that come from? What? Oh, this is
Right.
And it's like it was funny
Right.
because that was the first death thing.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the wolf, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a game where you just like a video game where you just with one sword blade going through 20 guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're
Right.
like,
Right.
Or whatever. Like it had real
Right.
impact.
Right.
You're dealing with you feel like you're dealing with a real person. And that's like Sam was saying, in character development, if you can't empathize with somebody or sympathize with somebody on screen,
Yeah.
Right.
there's value that you don't get nothing from it. You don't feel the human aspect of it.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do
Yeah.
with the game is to create a situation where it's memorable.
Yeah.
You feel there,
Mhm.
you're by
Yeah.
all of it that
Yeah.
happens. You know, I still remember
Yeah.
that first when we sat down and it wasn't we started with modern age and went back, it was 2061.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Jay, we just did that on the fly and we started just pulling back all of these excessive rule sets.
Yeah. I just started
Get it
peeling away
really-
rules we didn't need. Right.
And it allowed me, and did the naive narrative, it allowed me on the side to at least narrate.
Yep.
I call it the arm's length.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't have to tell me something's exactly there. I'd have to roll and sit there and stick on the ground whenever I'm forest.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you feed off each other.
Yep.
Like when you said it's raining, it's a light rain. Yeah, of course, it's lightly raining.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to really test it?
Mhm.
Uh,
But I made a note immediately. DV's now +1, so all DV checks for certain things were going to go up to +1, right? So okay, cool. He put some rain in here.
Sorry. Yeah.
So if you needed to
That's
look
my-
for distance, or if
Yeah.
you needed to hide, or the DVs
My-
would have been affected by it. Right?
My GM brain, like, how can
I
I
love
mess with the characters? And then
No,
I'm like,
but-
whoops, wait a minute.
And I'm okay with that.
I'm the
I'm
character.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with players
Right.
providing some atmosphere. Why should it always be me, right? It's
Right.
right. So
Yeah.
what's really interesting is I will take another game, and like other guys, like Jose said at one time, I keep trying to freaking handicap yourself because I find it interesting if I take more so like not like Bane's character
Mhm.
or some kind of feeling that I have to contend with. as a
Right.
character. I find it
Yeah.
something that I have to get over and have to incorporate into my character
Mhm.
to express myself and work around because
Right.
I find out more
Yeah.
more engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than-
Oh, 100%.
Well, there's humanity in it. Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
You take blindness or limp or deafness
Mhm.
and for me, there's that. What that does is it actually creates a humanity.
It does,
and
yeah.
it's not just challenge. It creates a humanity that affects who my character is. Right? If my character has a
Yeah.
problem seeing, or he has wear glasses, and what I expect to see though with that inclusion is that the GM makes sure those things at some point come up and play. Or what's the point of me having glasses? Right? In
Right.
Well,
Savage
that's what
Worlds, if
we
there's
do
not a
it-
chance I can lose them. Right?
Mhm.
we do it in
Well, gentlemen, I got to go.
Yep,
I got to
yep.
help get my kid to bed. But
Yeah, you got it.
this
Hey,
was
thanks
so
a lot.
great. Let's do it
It was
again.
well worth
Yeah.
the wait, and
Oh,
we'll organize the next one. And we'll pick
Yes.
the next one up
Cool.
probably within just a few hours of time elapsing because it's pretty intense. We've got multiple camps that are, there could be potential problems, so we probably should, pick up. We'll just fast forward time to the next morning or something, right? So, all right, guys, thanks a lot. Awesome. I
Later.
appreciate it.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, guys.